Chapter 4955. I want to go too. Feng Liqiong's expression was cold as her dark eyes stared at Yiqing Luo quietly. I want to go too. You can't go. Yiqing Luo raised her head and met Feng Liqiong's gaze without any hesitation. Feng Liqiong's expression darkened. Why can't I go? I just want to go over and take a look. Could it be that you're afraid that I'll snatch away your opportunity and stop you from obtaining the inheritance of the divine phoenix? If I were afraid, I wouldn't have said these things in front of you. Yiqing Luo straightened up and sat down beside Feng Liqiong. She faced Feng Liqiong and faced her questioning gaze. She did not panic in the slightest. Little uncle, it's precisely because I trust you that I'm willing to let you know about these things. I know that you want to go because you want to see Mother. You want to personally ask Mother if she regrets the choice she made. But, she paused. His eyes met Feng Liqiong's and he could clearly see, when she says that his purpose is only to see his mother. Feng Liqiong's eyes showed clear signs of avoiding his gaze. Even his face was a little red. It was as if he was ashamed of having his thoughts poked out. Yiqing Luo had always known. This little uncle of his. Actually, it was just that the emotions in his heart were hard to calm down. Actually, he missed Feng Gu more than anyone else. However, there was really no way to satisfy his wish this time around. Yiqing Luo sighed softly. Little uncle, the current god realm, under the influence of the Palace of Gloom, is no longer the god realm that you know. If you still want to protect the god realm, to protect the god realm that Mother once wanted to protect. As the acting god emperor, you have to stay. If you leave with me and the Palace of Darkness finds out, what do you think the Palace of Darkness will do? Feng Liqiong's throat tightened and she couldn't speak. What would happen to Shadowy Palace? If it was him, he wouldn't be able to do so. They would definitely take the opportunity to start a war. Take down the immortal world in one fell swoop. If the god world became the property of the Dark Nether Palace, I'm afraid the lower realms would also suffer. All the realms would suffer a bloodbath. The consequences were extremely serious. Feng Liqiong's hand on the table clenched into a fist. He pounded the table heavily. Damned palace of gloomy darkness. He gritted his teeth. But he had already calmed down. Yiqing Luo tentatively stretched out her hand and gently placed it on his shoulder. Little uncle, if I can really meet Mother, I can help you to pass on the words you want to say to her. After a pause, she continued, if there is a chance, I will do my best to let you meet. Feng Liqiong clenched her fists even tighter. He clenched his fists so tightly that his fingertips turned white. His joints were protruding. He gritted his teeth and snorted coldly. There was no good answer, nor was there a bad answer. Yiqing Luo looked at him for several breaths and retracted her hand. Her pink lips curled upwards as she gazed at the few of them and said word by word, you guys guard the god realm and wait for us to return. That night, Yiqing Luo used Feng Liqiong's name to call Ji Wuhua and Feng Changqing over to the Feng residence. As soon as dinner was over, Feng Changqing was called to the study room by Patriarch Feng for a discussion. Yiqing Luo then pulled Ji Wuhua into the room. Ji Wuhua followed behind Yiqing Luo excitedly, his face filled with excitement. Miss Qing Luo, are you trying to exchange feelings with me secretly? Chapter 4956. Yiqing Luo didn't say a word. She just dragged Ji Wuhua and threw him into the room. The door was shut with a bam sound. Inside the room it was pitch black. Ji Wuhua got even more excited. Miss Qing Luo, I didn't expect you. I didn't expect you to be such a Miss Qing Luo. But I like it. He. Ji Wuhua's smile was extremely radiant. He opened his arms and closed his eyes, howling at Yiqing Luo. Miss Qing Luo, come on. Please don't pity me just because I'm a delicate flower. You can do whatever you want to do. I can do whatever you want. Hiss, the sound of candlelight was accompanied by the young lady's clear voice. Really, anything? That soft voice made Ji Wuhua's smile even more radiant. He nodded hard. Yes, as long as it's Miss Qing Luo, anything is fine. I'll leave it to you. The young lady said with a smile. Come on. What do you mean? Ji Wuhua vaguely sensed that something was wrong and opened his eyes. It was okay if he didn't open his eyes. But when he opened his eyes, he was shocked. In the room where the candlelight was flickering, there were not only him and Yiqing Luo. There were two strangers, a man and a woman sitting on the chair. Yiqing Luo, who was laughing in the arms of the overlord. Ji Wuhua. He'd better close his eyes. He felt a death stare staring at him. That was the death stare from His Majesty Di Zun. He was going to die. Just when Ji Wuhua was about to cry, Yiqing Luo said with a smile, Lord Flower King, let's start. The 4 words Lord Flower King made Ji Wuhua's hair stand on end. He shuddered and stepped back. Okay, what do we do? He was just about to move. Yiqing Luo raised her eyebrows slightly and her smile became even sweeter. But the threatening look in her eyes was enough to make Ji Wuhua's heart tighten. Of course. Disguise these two as me and Ah Xian. She looked up and smiled at Ji Wuhua. Just now Lord Flower King said that I can do anything. You shouldn't be lying, right? Lie. She was the one who had used her beauty to trick him. Ji Wuhua, I feel wronged but I can't say it. Not only could he not say it, he had to accept it with grievance. No, I won't. Staring at the Overlord's death stare as well as Yiqing Luo's death smile. Ji Wuhua was very cowardly. I am the Flower King. How could the most honest person? How could he lie to you? Sob, sob, sob. Yiqing Luo nodded satisfactorily. Start your performance. Ji Wuhua. Inside the room, there were 2 strangers who were disciples of the Emperor Palace. Their figures and postures were similar to Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian. When the both of them came out with their disguises, they changed into Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian's clothes. If one did not look closely, they did indeed look like 2 different people. However, after all, a fake was just a fake. His mannerisms and actions were somewhat similar. However, his temperament was clearly different. Ji Wuhua was busy for half a day before he finally heaved a sigh of relief as he sat down on the table. What are you trying to do by making 2 fakes? Yiqing Luo smiled as she passed him a cup of tea. You've worked hard. Ji Wuhua instantly jumped up as though he was injected with chicken blood. He received the tea from Yiqing Luo and stared at the tea, the cup that Miss Qing Luo touched. The tea that Miss Qing Luo poured for me personally. Sob, 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 he wasn't going to drink it. He wanted to keep it. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Dizun, please collect it gently. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Dizun, please collect it gently. Chapter 4957. Yiqing Luo's next sentence knocked him down from the peak of excitement. Let's continue after the tea. Ji Wuhua was so scared that he almost dropped the cup in his hand. Continue? Continue what? Yiqing Luo pointed to her own face and then to Dmo Xian. It's our turn. Ji Wuhua. Did you think it was easy for me to disguise myself? Did you think I could easily disguise myself? My hands are sore from tormenting 2 people in a row. I want to go on strike. I quit. Damn, it smells so good. Ji Wuhua resigned himself to his fate as he picked up the tools and started a series of... First, she removed her makeup, and removed the alluring face that she had put on earlier. Then she put on a new pretty face that was more delicate and mischievous. After that, helped Dmo Xian to disguise himself. Yiqing Luo wanted to disguise Dmo Xian as a heroic and mighty man in his 30s. Compared to her, it was like an uncle with a lowly, so sexy and flirtatious. But, perhaps Ji Wuhua was intimidated by Dmo Xian's majesty and his hands were trembling. Or perhaps Ji Wuhua did it on purpose. After an hour and a half of disguise. Finally, the finished product was presented. Yiqing Luo's jaw almost dropped. Wow. 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 It was a fair and delicate face. So delicate that it was cute. Her long and slender eyelashes fluttered like butterfly wings. His deep blue pupils rippled with a pure and mysterious light that was as deep as the sea. Even the lips were pink and lovely like a rose. Yiqing Luo's maiden heart was about to burst. Ji Wuhua must have done it on purpose. Ji Wuhua looked at the 14 or 15-year-old young man in front of him and expressed his satisfaction. Such an overlord. Could he still bluff? He only knew how to give him a death stare. He only knew how to scare him. Humph, even if he wanted to scare people now, he couldn't use his majesty anymore? Ji Wuhua's face was full of pride and his little mouth was about to rise to the sky. However, seeing Dmo Xian's face reflected in the bronze mirror, he squinted his clear and limpid eyes as he cast a sidelong glance. Ji Wuhua's complacent smile froze on his face. Shivering with cold. Bowing down to the big shots. I was wrong. Ji Wuhua admitted defeat decisively. Dmo Xian curled his cherry blossom pink lips slightly. Wrong, do you know what to do now? I'll help you disguise yourself again. Ji Wuhua straightened his back. Even if I changed my appearance into a cute little girl. The Overlord's oppressive aura and murderous death stare were not weakened at all. It was too scary. Ji Wuhua's small hands trembled as he was about to help Dmo Xian remove the disguise on his face. A fair little hand suddenly stretched out. Then he blocked Ji Wuhua's movement. The girl's pretty eyes curved slightly, and she smiled with incomparable joy. That's good. I don't need to disguise myself again. But. Ji Wuhua looked at Dmo Xian hesitantly. Dmo Xian raised his eyes and looked at Yiqing Luo. That black eyes that were as pure and innocent as the sea were like azure blue gems, sparkling with brilliance. He asked, "Do you like it?" Like Yiqing Luo nodded like a chick pecking rice. "As long as it's a Xian, I like it." In that instant, the man's imposing aura, which was overflowing with a vicious aura, suddenly disappeared. That delicate and adorable eyebrows and wrinkles also calmed down. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 49:58. Yiqing Luo leaned forward and cupped the man's face with both hands. "That's it, no need to change." "And I won't exchange." Dmo Xian unconditionally agreed to any request of his darling. Yiqing Luo's glass-like eyes smiled like a crescent moon. "This Xian is really cute, so cute that I want to." She hugged the man and said, "I want to hide you from others." Dmo Xian's rose-like lips, his smile was pure and clear, even his voice had become compatible with that face, so ethereal that it could cleanse one's soul. "So Lil Luo likes this." Yiqing Luo's maiden heart thumped wildly. Too cute. I can't hold on. I want to hug him. However, as a pacifying boy, she was still rational. After the man said this sentence, she immediately continued, "Because it's Xian, I like him." The man chuckled softly. His sapphire blue eyes were filled with a doting and helpless smile. You. She could always make him happy inadvertently. Ji Wuhua, who had been ignored and thrown away after using it, was at a loss for words. Hey, can't you pay attention? I'm still standing there. Was there a need to show off their love in such a deranged manner? That was his goddess. His heart ached. He was struggling internally and his mind was filled with thousands of scenarios. Rushing forward, pushing Dizun away and taking back his goddess. But in fact, he only dared to stand where he was, holding his aching heart, motionless. That night, Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian, together with the barbaric Bloodbone King, quietly left the Phoenix Manor and headed towards the boundary of the God Realm. In the darkness, a few figures were faintly discernible. Right then, on the second floor of the restaurant, a curtain was lifted, revealing a pair of charming eyes. In the dark night, those charming eyes were like the stars in the night sky, dazzling and dazzling. Staring in the direction where the figures disappeared, the girl's pink lips softly clicked her tongue. "TSK. I guessed right." The people from the Palace of Darkness were really. He stared at her all the time. He thought that he had made thorough preparations. He didn't expect that he would be exposed before he even set off. The influence of the Netherworld Palace was getting bigger and bigger in the God Realm. This time they had to speed up. Otherwise, grandfather and little uncle might not be able to hold on for much longer. Xian, no, now I should call you? Yun. The girl smiled sweetly, her eyes like crescent moons. He changed his appearance. Naturally he had to change his name. Now her Xian was called Chaoyun to the public. Her name was Muyu. Morning clouds and evening rain. Clouds in the morning, rain in the evening. Day and night, I pass the days together with my son. Say, how long do you think it will take them to find out that those two are fakes? They won't find out. Dmo Xian replied indifferently, the map in their hands is half real and half fake. With the Imperial Palace's disciples escorting them, as well as the blood-boned barbaric king's protection, even if it's Gu Jingyu, he wouldn't be able to detect. That's fake. Yiqing Luo leaned lazily in his arms as she used one hand to brush his black hair, but secluded palace isn't stupid. So we have to be fast. Dmo Xian held her slender waist lightly. When dawn breaks, we'll leave. Yiqing Luo nodded smilingly. 2 days later. God Realm's barren land in a rather remote village. Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian were resting in a simple tea house. A pair of men and horses were extremely arrogant as they stepped on the dust. Chapter 49:59. The iron blood horse raised its hooves and trampled on the tables and chairs in the tea house. Sawdust flew. It almost hit Yiqing Luo. Dmo Xian raised his hand to block it. Yiqing Luo raised her eyes and looked at that group of people. A total of 14 people. The leader was a man and a woman. The man's build was huge and strong like a bear. The woman was not bad looking, but there was a strong aura in her eyes. Both of them looked about the same age, around 24 or 25. The head of the Dark Void Hall is here again. Half a month ago? Didn't they just come? Why are they here again? They know that those little brothers have left, so they specially came over to seek revenge? Isn't the Dark Void Hall backed by the Jiang family's aristocratic family? So arrogant, aren't they afraid of causing a backlash from other cultivators? Not far away, the villagers complained unwillingly, but no one dared to stand out. The leader jumped off the horse and kicked the ruined table. Is the boss of your tea house blind? Why don't you come out and serve? His line of sight swept across. His gaze fell on the seat where Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian were sitting. It was no wonder that he noticed this side at first glance. Mainly, the entire outer shop of the tea house. Because of their arrival, the tables and chairs were all ruined. Their table was the only one that was still intact. Moreover, the other villagers had long shrunk to the side. They were the only ones who were still sitting there calmly. All of you get up. The leader strode over. This seat, we want it. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes in interest. She didn't expect that in the God realm, to encounter this kind of evil tyrants traveling. It was said that the entire God realm was full of awesome cultivators. Any one of them was capable of doing something earth-shattering. Although this group of villagers were just villagers. But they were still cultivators, right? Was it really good to be so cowardly? Could they still behave like a cultivator from the God realm? If those people from the lower realm saw this, wouldn't they be disillusioned with the God realm? Yiqing Luo expressed that she was incomparably disillusioned now. I'm talking to you, didn't you hear me? Perhaps it was the first time that the leader had met someone who dared to ignore him. He slapped the table hard. The 2 teacups and the teapot on the table toppled over. Tea was poured all over the table. Yiqing Luo raised her eyes slightly as she looked at the leader. Her charming eyes were calm, her delicate eyebrows curved like the crescent moon. Without the slightest hint of fear, he met the ferocious gaze of the leader. Then her pink lips curled up bit by bit, revealing a lovely smile. You spilled my tea. What? The leader frowned as if he couldn't believe what he had just heard. Yiqing Luo was still smiling as she repeated a sentence. You spilled my tea. The leader's eyes were filled with rage. What did you say? The owner of the tea house immediately came forward. Boss, these 2 are just passers-by. They don't know the rules. Please forgive them. We've specially prepared a room for you. You can rest inside, rest inside. As the boss was saying that, he signaled Yiqing Luo with his eyes, making them take the opportunity to leave. Old man. The leader grabbed the collar of the tea house owner and lifted him up with one hand. Since they don't know the rules, I'll teach them what the rules are. The profound grade of the tea house owner was not low. At least Yiqing Luo could sense the strong profound grade aura of the tea house owner. But the tea house owner was indeed easily detained by the other party. Chapter 4960. It could be seen how powerful the Grand Hall Master of Dark Void Hall was. Grand Hall Master, they're just passers-by, please be magnanimous and let them go. The tea house boss couldn't bear to implicate the young couple. So much nonsense, do you believe that I'll teach you a lesson too? The leader impatiently threw a punch towards the tea house boss's face. Ah! A sharp shriek pierced through the sky. The leader painfully hugged his hand as he staggered backwards 2 steps. The tea house boss was suddenly let go. Losing the support of his strength, he fell backwards weakly. But he didn't fall. A fair little hand clasped onto his shoulder. A seemingly soft and slender wrist. But it was able to steadily support his body, allowing him to stand firmly. The tea house boss heaved a sigh of relief while still in a state of shock. Turning his head, he saw that dainty young lady with a sweet smile on her face. He was so shocked that he broke out in cold sweat. Madam Chow. His original intention was not to involve the young couple in this matter. He had not expected. But now it was this young girl who had lent him a helping hand. This time, how would the people from Dark Void Hall let her off? Grand Hall Master. Cousin brother. A few exclamations were heard from the direction of that group of people. The lady and the other cultivators who were dressed in martial arts attire ran towards the leader. They only saw that the leader's hand, which was about to hit the tea house boss's face, had a hole pierced through it, and water was gushing out. That fiendish face was twisted into a ball because of the pain. It was that young lady who did this. The leader's eyes were sinister as she stared angrily at the direction of that dainty young lady. Do you know who we are? Then do you know who I am? The young lady's tender lips curled upwards as she gave a light smile. The young lady's question. It made the surrounding people's hearts tighten. The leader's brows creased tightly as she sized up Yiqing Luo vigilantly, as though she was scrutinizing her identity. If she dared to ask such a question. Presumably, the backing behind her must be very strong. The leader pondered for a moment and asked, "Who are you?" Yiqing Luo's delicate pink lips slowly rose upwards. That half-smile, with a hint of mockery in it, caused the leading woman to feel a strange feeling in her heart for no reason. Just as he was about to stop Yiqing Luo from speaking, he heard that melodious and soft voice, which was like that of a girl next door, enunciating every word, "I am your father." Courting death. The leader's eyes shot out a baleful aura, as the long spear in her hand swept out, directly piercing towards Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's expression didn't have the slightest change, instead she was all smiles as she looked at the incoming long spear. His pink lips carelessly spat out words that made people feel ashamed and annoyed. "My good daughter, you're not dead yet. Why would your father seek death?" The moment the spear fell, in front of the young lady, an invisible barrier formed by an invisible shockwave blocked the spear. After that, a ray of dark light tore through the sky and descended. Bang! The moment the earth-shattering explosion rang out, a loud sound rang out. The leader of the group fell to the ground like a kite with a broken string. Only to see that dainty young lady dressed in a peach-colored long dress was being protected in the arms of a man dressed in a bamboo-colored long robe. The leader of the group clearly saw this earth-shattering dark light oppressive force. It was just that the man had casually waved his sleeves and created it. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 4961. Her eyes widened as she stared incredulously at the tall man. She couldn't believe her own eyes. Yiqing Luo walked over to them with a light smile. Those cultivators who were following behind were so frightened that they retreated backwards as they looked at her with vigilance. The leader's face turned pale as he stared at Yiqing Luo. He recalled that his hand was pierced through by that young lady using something unknown. This was totally ruining his hand. Thinking of this, the leader's eyes turned scarlet as he gritted his teeth and bellowed, "What are you trying to do?" The young lady smiled innocently as she blinked her eyes and spoke in a soft voice, "You spilled my tea and smashed the teahouse boss's shop. How should we settle this score?" "You." The leader didn't expect that the other party actually wanted to settle the score with him. The suppressed anger in his chest suddenly sprang up at this moment. "Slut. Are you looking for death?" A paw sound was heard. A gust of hurricane struck and landed a loud slap on the leader's face. That man in the bamboo robe took steady steps as he walked to the young lady's side. A pair of azure sapphire-like eyes revealed a frosty sharpness. "If you insult her one more time, I will pull out your tongue." The man's voice was similar to a young man's voice. Very soft. When he said this sentence there wasn't much emotion. But there was a kind of which made one's heart turn cold. They didn't dare to doubt the truth of what he said. The group of people instantly didn't dare to say another word. The young lady was pampered and arrogant as she raised her eyebrows but didn't lose her young lady's charm. "My husband is very powerful. If you guys can't think it through, feel free to find trouble with us. But there's a possibility that this price is your sex life." The last two words. The young lady's tone suddenly deepened as her voice was bewitching and low. The group of people's faces turned ashen. The leader's face twisted. He gritted his teeth and shouted in a low voice, "Let's go." The next moment, the group of people had already disappeared in front of their eyes. A cloud of dust was kicked up. Yiqing Luo clicked her tongue. "Hey, don't go, I haven't paid for my tea." After the people from the Anshu Hall left, the shabby village gradually regained its hustle and bustle. Countless villagers who had been hiding in their homes squeezed over. "You two hurry up and leave." The tea house owner sighed softly, "You are outsiders, so you don't know what happened here. If you don't leave now when the people from Dark Void Hall come, the two of you, no matter how strong you are he shook his head. Let's go. Let's go. If we leave, what will you do?" Yiqing Luo smiled. "That Dark Void Hall's people, no matter how I look at them, they don't look like good people. They will definitely not let you off right." She looked around at the dozens of villagers around her. "The two of us haven't reached the point where we would sacrifice your lives for our own safety." Yiqing Luo pulled Dmo Shen back to her previous seat and sat down. "Why don't you tell us that Dark Void Hall? What kind of force is it?" The tea house owner looked at the girl's smiling face and felt a little worried. But the young lady was too determined. He had no choice but to sit opposite Yiqing Luo as he explained the Dark Void Hall in a concise and comprehensive manner. "7th Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love." Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 4962. Anshu Hall. It was a force that had inexplicably developed 3 months ago. Their behavior was similar to that of a bandit. In any case, everything that should be done and everything that shouldn't have been done had been done. Wherever they went, there would be a great wave of carnage. At first, some people wanted to resist. But the price of resistance. Otherwise, the entire family would be buried in a sea of fire in a single night. Otherwise, the entire village would be obliterated. No one could do anything to the Anshu Hall. Because the power behind the Anshu Hall was one of the divine world's 5 great aristocratic families, the Jiang family. Or perhaps, everything that the Anshu Hall had done had been instructed by the nobles of the Jiang clan. The current Anshu Hall had taken root in various places in the God realm. It only took 3 months. When Yiqing Luo heard that, her brows creased slightly. The nobles of the Jiang family, this made her think of the Palace of Darkness. The Jiangs had long colluded with the Palace of Gloomy Darkness. If the Anshu Hall was a subsidiary force of the Jiang clan, this also meant that, 3 months ago, the Gloomy Palace had already extended their claws into the God realm. But what is the purpose? The Jiang clan was one of the 5 great aristocratic clans of the divine realm. Ruining his own reputation like this, causing his reputation to resent him? Aren't you afraid of incurring a backlash from those profounders? The Jiang family's aristocrats? Why would they allow the Dark Void Hall to do such a bandit thing so wantonly? Yiqing Luo asked puzzledly. The tea house owner shook his head. I'm not too sure either. However, I overheard those people chatting while drinking tea here. The tea house owner paused for a moment, then lowered his voice and said, the people from Anshu Hall seem to be looking for a place. Find a place? Between Yiqing Luo's enchanting eyes, a glint flashed past. However, on the surface, there was still that delicate and innocent expression. Looking for a place? If he's a noble, isn't it just a matter of saying the name of the place he's looking for? They don't even know where they are. The tea house owner lowered his voice even further. I heard them say that the Anshu Hall is still spread out in every region, even deep in the mountains and ancient forests. Countless people have been planted, all for the sake of finding that place. Yiqing Luo was almost certain now. The existence of the Anshu Hall. It was probably done by the Palace of Darkness. He wanted to find the location of the Divine Sovereign's tomb. However, how could the secluded Darkness Palace be so sure that the Divine Emperor's tomb was in the God realm? Would he be able to find the Divine Emperor's tomb if he searched everywhere in the Divine world? Girl, have you forgotten what happened to you in the Palace of Darkness? Old Man Sang's voice reminded her in her mind. Yiqing Luo, what? Old Man Sang said, the stone wall of the Palace of Darkness once brought you to the periphery of the Divine Emperor's tomb. And the Palace of Darkness must have known the scenery outside of the Palace of Darkness through your consciousness. The Palace of Gloomy Shadow is searching for the tomb of the Divine Emperor in such a way. They must be searching for that place that looks similar to the surroundings of the Palace of Gloomy Shadow. Yiqing Luo's eyes narrowed as she scoffed in her heart. What a pity, after preparing everything and planning everything, we still can't even find a destination. The tea house boss saw that Yiqing Luo didn't speak for a long time and thought that she was stunned by the power of the Jiang family's aristocrats. He tried his best to persuade them, 2 customers, now that you know the power of the Anshu Hall, you'd better leave this place quickly. If the Grand Hall Master of the Anshu Hall brings his men over, they will not let you off. That pair of siblings are vicious and merciless, and they like to snatch women and men by force. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 4963. You and your husband's looks are too unsafe. As he spoke, he sighed. If it was yesterday, at least there would be a team of young brothers to take you away. Unfortunately. Yiqing Luo touched her face. Disguising herself as a pretty girl from a humble family could still be praised as pretty. She really had a good foundation. No matter how she disguised herself, she was still a beauty. Her slender brows rose slightly. Between her delicate brows, there was an unquestionable firmness. I know you have good intentions, but my husband is very powerful, so I am not afraid of whatever Dark Void Hall, whatever Jiang family's aristocrats. Don't worry about us, they can't hurt us, husband and wife, and will absolutely not let them hurt you. Finishing her words, the young lady slightly raised her head, playfully winked at the man beside her. Ah Yun, am I right? The man's brows at this time, there was a touch of gentleness and tenderness. Listening to the young lady saying, husband, and us husband and wife. His mood was so happy that he could fly to the sky. Hearing her call him that, it felt great. Looks like he had to settle this title as soon as possible. Dmo Xian's eyes drooped, affectionate. Yes. What you said are all right. The tea house boss saw that he couldn't persuade them and could only helplessly say, then both of you have to be careful. Yiqing Luo's long and narrow eyes twitched, suddenly asked, oh yes, you mentioned. A team of young brothers, who are they? That team of young brothers also had a conflict with the Dark Void Hall? The tea house boss nodded. Yesterday the Dark Void Hall came to make a scene. Coincidentally, that team of young brothers were resting here. Both sides had a little conflict. And then started to fight. Yesterday that group of young brothers also taught the Dark Void Hall a lesson. Today the Dark Void Hall's eldest brother and sister came over. I'm afraid they heard that the team of young brothers had left, and came over to take revenge on us. Unexpectedly. Today they had kicked an iron plate again. The Dark Void Hall had been taught a lesson for 2 consecutive days. The Jiang family's aristocrats were probably going to intervene. No wonder the tea house boss kept persuading Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian to leave. After all, the Anshu Hall had been suppressing their hatred and anger for 2 days. That team does have guts. Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed with a trace of admiration. The tea house owner said, that team seems to be a mercenary group. They probably got separated from the mercenary group. I think I heard them mention that they are some people from the World Mercenary Group. The tea house owner sighed with emotion. As expected, heroes come from the young. I wonder when did such a young mercenary group appear in the God realm. Furthermore, they are filled with righteousness. If they can grow up, they will definitely be able to make a name for themselves in the God realm. Yiqing Luo, did she hear wrongly? Did she hear wrongly? World Mercenary Group? The World Group? How could this be? Yiqing Luo's eyes widened as she looked at Dmo Xian and then at the tea house's boss. Boss, you just said what mercenary group? Can you repeat it again? Under the heavens mercenary group. The tea house owner said. Yiqing Luo, was it a coincidence? Weren't the World Group brothers still in the Earth realm? How could they possibly reach the God realm? How was it possible for them to fight in the God realm? Unless they were using cheats. Yiqing Luo expressed that her inner heart was in shock, as she couldn't react in time. 7th Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love and please collect it. 7th Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love and please collect it. Chapter 4964. Yiqing Luo suppressed the shock in her heart. Where did they go? No matter if it was a coincidence or not. She had to chase after them to take a look. What if? Were they really her bunch of brothers? The tea house boss pointed to a place. I seem to have heard that they were going to look for someone or somewhere. Yiqing Luo had an intuition. That bunch of people were probably her brothers in the World Group. But she had to settle those 2 pairs of cousins from Dark Void Hall first before she could chase after the World Group. The few of them were talking. Dark Void Hall. The people from Dark Void Hall are here. Suddenly those villagers who were crowding around abruptly turned around and went back into their own rooms. As though they were facing a great enemy, they all ran away. In a split second. The tea house, which was originally slightly crowded and bustling with noise. Instantly there was only the tea house boss, Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian trio. But in a blink of an eye, 10 over-cultivators dressed in black robes swarmed up. The ones leading the group who were being carried by the carriage were those 2 cousins. Yo, young lady's guts aren't small, you actually didn't run. The leading lady, Lvni's eyes were filled with viciousness as she looked at Yiqing Luo venomously. Run? The leading man, Lu Sanzong, caressed his wound which had already been bandaged as he gave a chilly laugh. You're rather smart, knowing that you can't run, so just wait for your death here obediently. Those 10 over-cultivators dressed in black robes had already swiftly surrounded the entire tea house. Lu Sanzong and Lv and I walked down from the carriage. Their faces were filled with the complacency of capturing their prey, and the joy of venting the anger in their hearts. Young lady. Lu Sanzong's vision was glued onto Yiqing Luo's face. The young lady's looks. As compared to those beauties whom he had seen before, she indeed wasn't considered as beautiful. But she had that pair of eyes. Like a fox. Just one look and he felt as though there was a whirlpool in those eyes, sucking him in. Especially when the young lady's charming smile was like a blossoming flower, He inexplicably felt that that face was very attractive. Lu Sanzong stared at the young lady, looking her up and down and feeling disgusted. Suddenly he gave an evil smile. Young lady, what benefits do you get from following that gigolo? Why don't you follow me? As long as you follow me, I won't hold it against you for your rude behavior just now, and I'll let the people in this village go. As he spoke, he stroked the stubble on his chin with his fingers. There was a disgusting smile in his eyes. That piercing gaze, this made Dmo Xian's expression sunk. His eyes that were pure like sapphires were covered in frost at this moment, and they emitted killing intent. His bamboo-colored robe fluttered even though there was no wind. Cousin, I want that pretty boy. LV's greedy voice came from the side. You're so good-looking and your strength isn't weak either. You're quite suitable to be a gigolo. Both of them had witnessed Dmo Xian's strength. He knew that Dmo Xian was unfathomable. But, now they had a helper. Why would he be afraid of these two young people? Lu Sanzong clapped his hands. One for you and one for me. Perfect. He wanted to see for himself. These two seemed to be aloof and virtuous, like banished immortals. After being captured by them. We'll use what kind of face beg them. Just thinking of this scene made him feel excited. Both of their gazes were extremely nauseating. Courting death. Dmo Xian squinted his blue eyes as he looked at Lu Sanzong with a murderous look. He bent his fingers and a dark glow flowed through his fingertips. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Lord Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Lord Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 4965. Ayun. The young lady's soft voice rang beside his ear. Her fair little hand gently rested on his arm, suppressing the man's irritable breath. Yiqing Luo's pink lips casually raised. Don't be angry this level. I can handle it myself. She walked gracefully, casually past the man and walked towards Lu Sanzong. Dressed in a pink dress as if peach blossoms were in full bloom as she walked. It further complemented the young lady's delicate face, revealing a unique beauty of a young lady. Lu Sanzong's eyes were filled with evil. However, just as Yiqing Luo was about to walk in front of him, the young lady suddenly made a turn. She was already standing in front of LVNI. LVNI was shocked by this sudden turn and took 2 steps back. By the time she regained her senses, her face turned black. Slut, what are you doing? How dare she scare her? She raised her hand and slapped the face that had offended her. You. The young lady's pink lips lightly spat out a word. LVNI only felt a cold flash in front of her eyes. A cold sensation pierced through his skin. Her brain had yet to react. Her body's instincts had already quickly evaded. After LVNI stood still, she saw. The girl in front of him had an evil smile on her face as she stood there. In her fair hand, there was a chilling machete glinting with a cold glint. Her posture was very casual. How dare you covet my man who gave you the guts? The young lady's eyebrows were curved, as delicate as a flower. But the action of her hand was filled with a fierce aura. Swish, the machete cut through the air, directly chopping towards LVNI's face. There was no fancy action. Directly chopping where the vital point was. Chopping you to death, how dare you covet my man? After changing her appearance, she changed into a sock puppet. Naturally, it was impossible to take out her standard weapon. She couldn't use the glower flame fan. Then she would use the simplest and easiest to use, a big machete. Yiqing Luo's fierce action made Lu Sanzong's face turn extremely ugly. Ah! With a blood-curdling scream, LVNI covered her injured arm and leaped backward. She painfully turned her head to look at the dozens of black-clothed profound practitioners. Attack! Third Elder Jiang, Fourth Elder Jiang, save me. As soon as LVNI's voice fell, Yiqing Luo acutely sensed that there were 2 bursts of murderous intent coming towards her from not too far away. Her expression froze and she quickly retreated. Bang bang bang. A majestic aura exploded in the air. It was as if the air was going to be torn apart. Whereas at this moment Yiqing Luo had already returned to Dmo Xian's side. The invisible profound light exploded and destroyed everything in its surroundings. The entire tea house collapsed. The ground cracked open. From this, it could be seen exactly how powerful the explosion of the profound light was. However, amidst the explosion of the profound light, with Dmo Xian and Yiqing Luo as the center, it was as if a vacuum had been created. Fierce and tyrannical profound light filled the sky. They couldn't even get close to the 2 of them. Under the whirlwind of sand, Yiqing Luo saw two elderly dressed in Jiang family's aristocratic attire, standing in front of Lu Sanzong and LVNI. The profound qi on those two elderly were sharp, like a lurking poisonous snake, ready to explode at any time. Since you refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit, then don't blame me for not knowing how to have tender and protective feelings for the fairer sex. Lu Sanzong looked coldly at Yiqing Luo, his expression sinister. Yiqing Luo leaned lazily in Dmo Xian's arms, her brows slightly raised as she looked at the elderly. So it's the helpers invited from the Jiang family's aristocratic family. It's really so scary. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 4966. The Jiang family's aristocrats really didn't care about their reputation. They had completely handed over their family to the Palace of Darkness. So sure. Would the Palace of Darkness be the final winner? Yiqing Luo's long and narrow eyes curved slightly as her lips curled into an extremely faint cold arc. Since young lady knows that this is the elder of the Jiang family, why don't you surrender obediently? Lu Sanzong's confidence was different now that he had a backer. Yiqing Luo tilted her head, a strand of hair fell on her cheek, making her look even more charming. The young lady's red lips rose slightly. The Jiang family is one of the top 5 aristocrats and now they are actually helping you. I don't know where this wild chicken force came from. She clicked her tongue. I didn't expect the Jiang family's aristocrats to be in such a state now. How could Lu Sanzong not hear the sarcasm in the young lady's words? His face sunk immediately as he gritted his teeth and sneered. Young lady, the Dark Void Hall is not some unknown small force now. You can ask anyone in the God realm who doesn't know the prestige of the Dark Void Hall. The Dark Void Hall naturally has the ability to get the support of the Jiang family's aristocrats. Ha! The young lady carelessly snorted, her eyes were full of sarcasm. Prestige? I think it's infamy? She paused for a moment and laughed mockingly. The Jiang family's aristocrats are also thick-skinned to become the backing of such a force like yours, not afraid of getting into trouble. The young lady's words almost made Lu Sanzong die on the spot. The wound on his wrist started to hurt again. Young lady. The two Jiang family's aristocratic elders who had been silent and pretending to be otherworldly experts finally opened their mouths at this moment. Their eyes were cold and sharp as they stared at Yiqing Luo. At such a young age, it's better not to be too arrogant. Yiqing Luo replied with a smile. Both of you are already so old, running over here to be arrogant with a young lady like me. I'm afraid it's not appropriate. The murderous intent in the elder's eyes intensified. Immediately, the two pounced towards them at the same time. Silly girl, if I don't teach you a lesson, you really don't know your limits. Bang! Thick, profound energy burst forth from both of their bodies. The surrounding air instantly turned into a hurricane that surged violently. Yiqing Luo took a look at the surroundings, at the houses which the villagers lived in which had been overturned. The cracks on the ground were getting bigger and bigger. It was as if it would split open at any moment. It made people fall into the abyss. Fortunately, the villagers were not weak. They barely managed to avoid the pressure of the surrounding dark rays and hid far away. However, if this continued, with how merciless his opponent was, it was only a matter of time before the villagers were hurt. He had to avoid it. Yiqing Luo weighed the big machete in her hand as a wisp of dense light flashed past her delicate brows. She was just about to test the strength of those two Jiang family's elders. He had yet to move. Dmo Xian gripped her wrist tightly. Someone's coming. The man's deep voice rang in her ears. Humans? At this time in such a remote place could people still come? Yiqing Luo was just about to ask who it was. All of a sudden, the sounds of all kinds of profound lights colliding could be heard. Immediately, a few figures flashed past the horizon. A few dressed in black, armed with weapons, stood in front of Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian. Sure enough, it's you guys again. One of them said coldly, haven't you been taught a lesson enough? Chapter 4967. Haven't you been beaten up enough yesterday? Now you still dare to find trouble with us. I knew it, this kind of sinister and cunning people. Yesterday they bowed and bowed to us like grandsons. Today they will seek revenge on these villagers. Luckily we're here in time. A bunch of rubbish still dare to come here to be arrogant. The young men and women chattered and cursed, instantly turning this dangerous and quiet atmosphere into a hubbub. It's you guys. When Lu Sanzong saw that group of people, his expression turned steely green. LV's expression was also extremely ugly. Two losers, now you're looking for helpers to take revenge? We will beat you till you call for your father. Brothers attacked. After that, a group of people swarmed towards the Anshu Hall's side. The minute they went up, Jiang family aristocratic elderly's expression congealed. A bunch of little dolls dare to behave atrociously in front of us. The two of them had no chance to deal with Yiqing Luo now. On the contrary, they started to fight with this group of youngsters. Yiqing Luo? Now, wasn't it a good idea to stand here and watch the show? If she didn't help, it would seem as though she was letting down their enthusiastic help. This help. She indeed wanted to take a good look at what kind of training this group of perverts had gone through in the time she wasn't around, and how high were their profound grades now. Which was why they were able to come to God Realm, a place where the big shots were everywhere. They even became the messenger of justice, standing up for others. That's right. These youngsters in front of her were all dressed in black, and when they made a move, they could clearly see the cherry blossoms on their sleeves, as though they were burning in fire. The World Group uniform. These people, weren't they the group of brothers from the World Group? Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian didn't make a move. The brothers in the World Group were extremely well coordinated. One gaze, one action. They understood the other party's thoughts. After discovering that the two elderly's abilities were extremely powerful, they speedily adjusted their formation. Then they entangled the two elderly so much that they couldn't free themselves. Hence, under the elderly's eyelids, the few of them gave Lu Sanzong and LV a beating once again. The kind of beating without any reason at all. The chaotic battle lasted for about half an hour. The old man from the Jiang clan stopped and took Lu Sanzong and LV away from the scene. Only a bunch of profound practitioners from the Anshu Hall remained. He had become the captive of a group of young boys and girls. What bullshit Anshu Hall is this? So weak. You're running away? I haven't had enough yet. How boring is this really, the God Realm? I feel like he's not even worth a single blow. While tying up the profound practitioners of the Anshu Hall, the young men and women were still bragging in all sorts of ways. It wasn't until they threw all the people into the collapsed tea house that they looked at the villagers who were hiding far away. It's okay, everyone has run away. Hey kitty, where are you going? Suddenly, a voice interrupted the hubbub. Yiqing Luo saw a small soft dumpling pouncing into her arms. Sister. Just as the little man opened his mouth and spat out a word, he suddenly paused. Her ears, which were hidden in her hair, trembled slightly. Her glass-like eyes were filled with uncertainty as she looked at this extremely unfamiliar face. The young lady's dainty brows curved as her fair hands cupped the little man's face. Aya, where did this little cutie come from? You look so cute. Yiqing Luo hugged her into her arms. Chapter 4968. This is... She intentionally pinched the little boy's head, the ear which was hidden under the hair, and pretended to be surprised. Ear? Is this your ear? The little boy in her arms froze. A pair of watery glassy eyes stared at Yiqing Luo's face in a daze. Cat, what's the matter? A lady walked over, looking at the little boy nestled in an unfamiliar young lady's arms. She sized up Yiqing Luo in astonishment. This young lady you are? Amuyu. Yiqing Luo's long and narrow eyes curved as she replied with a smile. You are what the tea house boss mentioned. Young brothers? The young lady's eyes were filled with surprise. Indeed, as what the tea house boss said, you are really so young. She lowered her head to look at the little boy in her arms. You look like 12 or 13 years old, so young and already following the mercenary group to go on missions. You're really incredible. That tone totally seemed to be coaxing a child. Miss Mu. That lady opened her mouth. Just call me you, or calling me Madam Chow is also fine. Yiqing Luo smiled as she looked at the man beside her, smiling warmly. This is my husband, his name is Chow Yun. The lady looked at the both of them in shock. Both of you? Look so young, you're actually married. Xiao Yi, if you want to get married, we can also get married immediately. A handsome-looking man walked over from the lady's back. That look was so handsome, as though it was a perfect work of art carved out by a divine knife. His every action and every word he spoke and laughed exuded the nobility and dignity of a person in a superior position. Chao Jin. The lady stared at the man. Who wants to marry you? If you don't marry me, who else do you want to marry? The man's jade-like black eyes narrowed dangerously. He suddenly stretched out his hand and locked Yan Xiaoyi's waist, pulling her into his arms, then curled his lips towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Madam Chow, this is my wife Yan Xiaoyi. I'm this mercenary group's acting group leader, Xiao Jin. Yiqing Luo was puzzled. Why acting group leader? Because our real group leader is currently fighting for our mercenary group brothers. Xiao Jin's brows drooped slightly. However, it was only for an instant. His lips curled up into a smile. That's why I'm the acting commander for now. He waved his hand behind him and said, How did you provoke that bastard from the Anshu Hall? He even forced that bastard from the Dark Void Hall to specially invite two powerful old men over to help him. This time we came back to act tough. Fortunately, we brothers are also very strong. Otherwise, we would have been screwed. As expected of his brother. She had learned the way she spoke and the words she used. Yiqing Luo held back the laughter in her heart as she used the most ordinary tone to reply, Other than destroying that Grand Hall Master's hand and slashing his cousin, I didn't do anything too brutal. Xiao Jin, wasn't that cruel? Why do I feel that this girl is a little familiar? However, as she stared at that extremely unfamiliar face, it must be an illusion. Behind him, a few young boys and girls wearing mercenary uniforms walked over. He introduced them one by one. Yiqing Luo greeted the few of them and pretended not to know them, pretending to be genuine. After getting acquainted with the World Group's brothers once again, Yiqing Luo then shifted her vision towards the tea house boss and the villagers not too far away. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 4969. She took out a bag of coins and passed it to the tea house boss. Take it as my apology to you. The tea house boss hesitated for a moment. On seeing that there were quite a number of villagers behind, he still accepted the coins. Find another place to stay, this place is no longer safe. Even if this place wasn't destroyed by Dark Void Hall. If they continued to stay here, they would probably be harassed by those siblings from Dark Void Hall daily. They were hindered by Dark Void Hall's power, so they didn't dare to resist. In the end, they couldn't escape from the word, death. The tea house boss apparently thought of this point as well. In the end, the group of them dragged their families and left this piece of wasteland. Alright, now that the matter is settled, we can leave now. Yen Shaoyi looked at those Dark Void Hall cultivators who were tied up on the ground. These people, let's just leave them here. If they can survive, then it means that they aren't fated to die. That's true. Yiqing Luo's pink lips suddenly curled up in ridicule as a crafty glint flashed past her eyes. But just betting on their luck, isn't it too easy for them? No matter what, we have to increase the difficulty a little. Yiqing Luo's words were spoken. The world group's gazes all turned over in unison. Yiqing Luo smiled sweetly, as delicate as a painting as she walked towards those people. Tight and tight, she lifted her hand. In her fair little hand, there was a small exquisite white jade porcelain bottle. Those Dark Void Hall cultivators' faces turned pale as they stared at Yiqing Luo's hand, unable to guess what she was holding in her hand. Following that, everyone watched as that pink-dressed young lady held the porcelain bottle as she walked one round around Dark Void Hall's cultivators. In the porcelain bottle, a transparent liquid flowed out. But it was colorless and tasteless. Dark Void Hall's cultivators' expressions turned ugly. What is this? What are you trying to do? This is a good thing and it's very expensive. Yiqing Luo poured out the liquid in the porcelain bottle as her lips curled up indifferently. I guarantee that it will leave a deep and indelible impression on you till the last moment of your lives. What is that? Yen Shaoyi was curious as she couldn't help but lean forward to ask. Yiqing Luo blinked her eyes craftily. Just some wild beasts and magical beasts deep in the mountains like it more. Yen Shaoyi widened her beautiful eyes in understanding. Brilliant, indeed brilliant. The wild beasts and magical beasts in the depths of the mountain had smelled the scent and came over, only to see a group of tightly tied-up profound practitioners. What would happen? Yiqing Luo's eyes curved into a smile. Alright, we have to hurry and evacuate, otherwise we'll be implicated. The group of people immediately left the empty space. After a while, everyone heard the roars of wild beasts coming from the wasteland. It was deafening, shaking heaven and earth. His roar caused everyone's heart to skip a beat. But then he saw, the girl in the pink dress smiled innocently, as if she had nothing to do with these wild beasts. His heart skipped a beat. Why do I feel like this girl's way of doing things so familiar? That's right, I heard from the tea house boss that you had already left that place yesterday. Why did you turn back today? Yiqing Luo pretended to ask casually. Yen Shaoyi thought for a while. On the way, I heard someone mention that an elder of some Jiang noble family had come here from afar. It was said that it was to support the people of Anshu Hall. I thought that something wasn't right, so I brought my brothers and turned back. Someone mentioned. Yiqing Luo narrowed her long and narrow eyes slightly. A bad premonition emerged from the bottom of her heart. Chapter 4970. Not knowing if she was thinking too much. Somehow she felt a little strange. How could it be? So coincidentally, the World Group found out that Dark Void Hall had gotten help from the Jiang family's aristocrats? Although Yiqing Luo was certain that her and Dmo Xian's disguise was flawless, she didn't just change her appearance. All the aura in her body was suppressed by Dmo Xian. Vast water divine relic or the spiritual beast's energy had not leaked out at all. At least, after getting along for so long, the brothers who had great rapport with each other were unable to recognize her at such a close distance. Over at Dark Void Palace. It shouldn't be possible to recognize her. And they specially used the brothers to test her. Yiqing Luo pursed her lips slightly as her fingertips gently rubbed past her wrist, that piece of flawless white jade. This piece of jade was given to her by Blood-Bone Barbaric King. If something happened to the counterfeit, it would be impossible. Or if it was recognized by Dark Void Palace. Blood-Bone Barbaric King would inform her of the situation through this piece of jade. So, the counterfeit wasn't exposed. Dark Void Palace's people should have placed all their attention on the counterfeit. But, facing Dark Void Palace's sinister and cunning, they only knew how to hide in the dark like a rat. She couldn't help but feel a little worried. A warm and big palm held her little hand from behind. Warmth covered her. It also dispersed the uneasiness in her heart. The man's mellow voice entered her ears, revealing an irresistible magnetism. Don't panic. Currently your performance is very good. Yiqing Luo's breathing stilled as she nodded slightly. I know. She was the one who messed up. Then it would give Dark Void Palace a chance. No matter what, she had to stabilize herself first. That bunch of people from Dark Void Hall probably won't give up, so unless it's absolutely necessary, you'd better not return to this place. Yan Shaoyi didn't know what complicated thoughts Yiqing Luo was experiencing right now. She waved her hand at Yiqing Luo. Madam Chow, we still have other matters to attend to. If we're fated, we'll meet again. Yiqing Luo smiled as she nodded. All right, we'll meet again if we're fated. It was rare for her to reunite with the World Group's brothers. But she didn't ask them to stay or voluntarily join their team. She was walking together with the World Group. It just so happened that it was her and Dmo Xian, a man and a woman. It would definitely attract the attention of the Dark Abyss Palace. It was better to split up. Just now, when the few of them were fighting against the Anshu Hall and the elders of the Jiang clan's noble clan, they were all fighting against each other. Yiqing Luo had no choice but to admit. This group of young boys and girls who used to be immature had now grown to a point where even she was amazed. Even though their individual strength was nothing in the divine world, it was still not enough. But they are a team, they have chemistry. Therefore their combined power was enough to take root in the God realm. The World Group and the others headed towards another path. After walking for a few steps, Yiqing Luo slanted her head and stared at the little one in front of her, who had been looking at her without blinking as she smiled slightly. Little cutie, what's the matter? Your friends are all gone. Kitty Lee's voice was soft as a pair of lively beautiful eyes stared intently at Yiqing Luo. I'm not leaving. Could it be that little cutie is going to abandon your brothers and leave with me? Yiqing Luo smiled as she rubbed her head. Kitty Lee shook her head and nodded her head. Her little face was serious as she stared at Yiqing Luo without blinking at all. Chapter 4971. Kitty? Yan Shaoyi also sensed that someone was missing. She turned her head and saw Kitty Lee, standing eagerly in front of that peach-robed black-haired young lady. She hurriedly walked over and held onto Kitty Lee's little hand. Let's go. Don't. Kitty Lee shook her little head as she stretched out her hand to grab Yiqing Luo's hand. We can go with this, sister. Kitty. Yan Shaoyi's tone became heavier as her expression sunk slightly. We still have things to do. Madam Chow, appearing in this kind of desolate wilderness, you must have something important to do. Don't mess around. Kitty Lee's little ears trembled as her vivid glassy eyes stared deadly at Yiqing Luo. Yan Shaoyi tugged several times but wasn't able to make Kitty Lee loosen her grip. She was a little embarrassed as she smiled at Yiqing Luo. Madam Chow, I'm so sorry, this sister of mine is not very obedient. No matter. Yiqing Luo smiled lightly as she shook her head as her palm gently caressed Kitty Lee's head. She's very cute, I like her very much too. Actually, she roughly knew why Kitty Lee would display such an expression towards her. Kitty Lee was her contracted beast. No matter how well her presence was suppressed, between Kitty Lee and her there was still some sense. But an unfamiliar face, coupled with an unfamiliar presence, there was totally no sense of connection between the beast and its master. Kitty Lee wasn't certain that she was Yi Qing Luo, but the beast's intuition subconsciously made Kitty Lee unwilling to leave her. Yan Xiaoyi smiled as she held onto Kitty Lee's wrist. Kitty Lee, listen to me. Kitty Lee's little hand held onto Yi Qing Luo's arm tightly as her spirited beautiful eyes were filled with determination. I want to talk to you about her matters. When Yan Xiaoyi said the word her, she intentionally suppressed her voice and emphasized it. Kitty Lee's pupils contracted slightly. In the end, she let go of Yi Qing Luo and left with Yan Xiaoyi. The two of them didn't walk far. They were whispering something. From Yi Qing Luo's angle, she could see the shape of their lips. Yan Xiaoyi's expression congealed as she suppressed her voice. Mao Mao, now is not the time to fool around. It wasn't easy for us to come to God Realm and our only motive is to find Qing Luo. Don't create unnecessary problems. Kitty feels that person is very familiar. Kitty Lee frowned. Kitty doesn't know why. Kitty just doesn't want that person to leave. Madame Chow and that young Master Chow, although they don't seem to be much of a threat. Yan Xiaoyi changed the topic. But you must understand, those who dare to challenge the Anshu Hall, are they really as innocent and harmless as they appear on the surface? She looked at Kitty Lee as her tone became even more solemn. Kitty, Qing Luo is in danger now, we cannot waste any more time here. Ghost Thief Master has already received news. Miss Feng took her fiancé and quietly went to find the Feng family's treasures. The Dark Palace has already sent people to follow them secretly, but Miss Feng doesn't know anything. Yan Xiaoyi's tone became even more solemn. Do you know what this represents? Kitty? Kitty Lee's eyelashes drooped slightly as she opened her mouth weakly. Kitty knows. Miss Feng was their Qing Luo. Now that Qing Luo's whereabouts had been exposed, the Dark Palace definitely wanted to make use of Qing Luo to find the Feng family's treasures. They had to stop Qing Luo before she found the Feng family's treasures. Chapter 4972. Since you know, then I won't say anything more. Yan Xiaoyi replied, don't drag innocent people into this. Yi Qing Luo roughly understood the conversation between the both of them from the shape of their lips. A surge of warmth started to spread from her heart. Her pink lips unknowingly curled into an arc, her brows were dainty like the crescent moon. These brothers of hers. They really stepped into the God Realm because of her. All the hard work, struggles, goals were all for her. To have such a group of brothers who wholeheartedly thought of her. It was her fortune. Madame Chow. Suddenly, a slender figure blocked her line of sight. The figure was short and the pink dumpling attire made that cute little face look even more adorable. But that pair of eyes, which were like stagnant water, had no waves as it stared straight at her. It really gave her a feeling of shock. Yi Qing Luo blinked her eyes as she tilted her head and pretended to be puzzled. You seem to be Mo Yuing? The pink dumpling looked at her expressionlessly and didn't answer her question. Instead she asked coldly, why are you looking at them for? The icy cold voice was stiff and emotionless. It was still that familiar shadow. She wondered what Xiao Yinyan that fellow was doing. So useless. Still unable to turn the shadow into a real little Lolita. Yi Qing Luo ridiculed in her heart but didn't show it on her face as she smiled. They are pretty. Mo Yu Ying's brows turned cold as she replied indifferently, don't look at what you shouldn't look at. Saying that, she turned around and walked away. Don't mind her, the shadow is not targeting you. Xiao Jin smiled at Yi Qing Luo as he explained warmly. Following that, he took a look at Yan Xiaoyi and Kitty Lee as his eyes revealed an ambiguous smile. When he turned to Yi Qing Luo, it was a polite and warm smile. Madame Chow, where are you planning to go? Is there anything we can help with? Yi Qing Luo could tell. Xiao Jin was suspecting her identity. Of course, it wasn't because he recognized her as Yi Qing Luo. But he felt that she was related to the secluded palace. It was good to be vigilant. After all, the palace of gloomy darkness was so sinister. Yi Qing Luo's long lashes drooped down slightly as she gave a faint sigh. We intend to head over to the Devil region. I heard that there's a devil dragon in the Devil region. Demon domain? Xiao Jin was startled. Demonic domain. It was an independent realm that transcended the boundaries of the God realm. It was said that it was like hell. Demons ran amok and the slaughter was monstrous. No profound practitioner was willing to step into it. These two people actually wanted to go to the demon domain? And to search for the mystic dragon? One had to know that dragons were extremely rare. Other than their Qing Luo, that big pervert who had a dragon. Basically, they had not seen any other dragons until now. It was the same in the demon domain. Yi Qing Luo's voice was rather low and her emotions seemed to have sunk by quite a bit. My marriage with Ayun, his father was extremely against it, and later on in an accident. Because of Ayun, he suffered a very serious injury and needed the demon dragon's blood to save him. This was the excuse that Yi Qing Luo had long come up with. The imperial palace had made arrangements. She was also not afraid of investigations, because their identities and everything else would become the truth. Xiao Jin went into a blank and immediately opened his mouth. I'm sorry. It's all right. Yi Qing Luo smiled. You should still have a mission, so Ayun and I will not disturb you anymore. If we are fated to meet again next time, that would mean that there's really a lot of fate between us. 7th Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love for everyone to collect. 7th Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love for me. Chapter 4973. Her long and narrow eyes were like crescent moons as she smiled. The next time we meet, I'll treat you all to a big meal to express your life-saving grace today. Xiao Jin also smiled. It's a promise. Yi Qing Luo sent the group of brothers off with her eyes. The curvature of her lips, from the start till the end, was filled with gratification and warmth. The man hugged her waist from behind as his voice was mellow. It's really surprising. He laughed softly. Once in Nirvana realm they were called trash, but now they are able to stand on God realm's turf, and even cross hands with God realm's aristocratic elders, and they are not inferior at all. As their spiritual pillar, as their life mentor, how do you feel? The man's question made Yi Qing Luo's smile even more gentle. She turned around as she buried her head into his chest. Really? Very touched. Yi Qing Luo opened her mouth with a light smile. They finally became what they wanted to be. Their improvement, and they were able to stand on God realm. Everything had already exceeded her expectations. Although, right from the start, these devil-class students were not ordinary people. But, to be able to grow from that kind of situation to where they were now. Really? Very powerful. Yi Qing Luo was happy for them from the bottom of her heart. But, on the other side, she pursed her pink lips as she heaved a heavy sigh. Now that they've come to God realm, I'm afraid that the people from Gloomy Palace will also notice them, and take the opportunity to create trouble. Gloomy Palace loved to play with people's emotions. The kind that loved to break up. Gloomy Palace would never understand the love of the most. As though only by turning everyone into the same as Gloomy Palace. Only then could they pacify Gloomy Palace's sick mentality. Since they're here, then they must have made all the mental preparations. What you need to do now is to destroy Gloomy Palace's plans and shatter their hope. After that, become even stronger and complete. Your promise to me. Diamo Xian's mellow voice was like fine wine, low and hoarse. Like a warm hot spring, it could easily soothe all the worries in her heart. Promise. The promise to stand shoulder to shoulder to enjoy the world together? Yi Qing Luo's dainty little face blushed slightly. Lifting her eyes, she gazed at the cute Shota Diamo Xian in front of her. She stretched out her hand and cupped his face, looking into his azure sapphire clear eyes. I know. Her eyes were tinged with a smile. Let's go, we have to hurry. I keep feeling that the world group's reason for returning is unclear. Don't worry, I'm here. Diamo Xian held her little hand. However, after setting off again, Yi Qing Luo and Diamo Xian both met with trouble. Because the Anshu Hall's influence could be found all over the God world. Maybe it was because Lu Sanzong and LV&I had been humiliated. Or perhaps the elders of the Jiang clan were humiliated. The Dark Void Hall immediately issued a kill order. Portraits of her and Diamo Xian were plastered all over the God realm, resulting in Yi Qing Luo and Diamo Xian, even if they were to disguise themselves. His name had already spread far and wide in the firmament. Yi Qing Luo. She had already kept a low profile, but her ability didn't allow her to. What could she do? She was in despair too. Sob, sob, sob. Yi Qing Luo pulled Diamo Xian as she nestled at a corner of the city wall, picking up the kill order on the ground. On it, she could faintly see that the drawing was of her and Diamo Xian. It even indicated their names and symbols. Yi Qing Luo crumpled the paper into a ball. Why are they only chasing after the two of us? The ones who did this are the world group. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 4974. Diamo Xian held her hand which was rubbing the paper earlier as he gently rubbed it, as he asked with a smile, "Don't tell me you wish for them to chase after the world group?" "Forget it." Yi Qing Luo pouted, "Let's just chase after the both of us. If she didn't enter hell, who would? Who asked her to be their big shot?" Yi Qing Luo put on a bitter face as she leaned her head on Diamo Xian's shoulder. "This time round it's going to be tough on the both of us. Originally, in order to avoid people's eyes and ears, we were so careful when we left. Now it's even harder for us to move. It's hard to handle." The young lady turned her head around and around in the man's arms. Every single word sounded as though it was extremely difficult. But the young lady's tone didn't contain any trace of difficulty. "If you restrain the excitement in your tone, perhaps I might pretend to believe you." Diamo Xian pinched her nose as his thin lips slightly curled, which made him look even more peerless. Yi Qing Luo's long and narrow eyes curved like a crescent moon. She raised her head as she smiled at the man's indulgent gaze. "Do you feel that when you're with me, there will be endless troubles coming knocking on your door every day?" At this point she paused for a moment. Her charming eyes opened like a blooming rose, peerlessly beautiful. But she changed the topic as her slender fingers propped her chin as her tone was arrogant and complacent. "This kind of days really won't be boring at all." She leaned closer to Diamo Xian's face as she suppressed her voice and gave a light smile. "My Mr. Husband, how's the taste of living a colorful life every day? It's good to have you." The man's beautiful thin lips opened slightly as his mellow and hoarse voice lingered in her heart like fine wine. "With you around, no matter if it's rain or shine, no matter if it's ordinary or not. As long as you're around, it's good enough." Yi Qing Luo could hear the man's hidden words of love in his words. That delicate face was stained with a thin shade of red. Her eyes pouted coquettishly as her voice was soft as she muttered softly, "With you around, it's also very good." Luckily, no matter where she went, no matter where she was, no matter how many burdens she carried, A Xian only belonged to her. He had always been by her side and had never left. To have such a husband was already a winner in life. The girl's smile was filled with satisfaction and gentleness from the bottom of her heart. Between those pair of beautiful eyes, there was also a look of longing. She stared into the man's eyes. She could only see herself reflected in the man's ink-colored eyes. Her pink lips parted and she enunciated each word clearly. "When the Palace of Darkness plan is destroyed, we'll return to the Phoenix Manor, and let's get married." Diamo Xian's body suddenly stiffened. It was as if he couldn't believe what he had heard. The whirlpools in his obsidian-like eyes surged. He was agitated, but he deliberately restrained himself. One word came out of his mouth. However, his throat was dry and he couldn't say anything else. The smile on the girl's face deepened. She took a step back. Then he slowly stretched out a hand towards him. Her lips curled up, and her smile bloomed like a blooming flower. "May I ask, young Master Diamo Xian, are you willing to marry me?" Diamo Xian's heart and brain at this moment, the first time, was messed up. Boom! His mind was filled with a buzzing sound. He couldn't hear anything at all. In his eyes there was only that peach blossom dress. Under the fluttering jet black hair, that blushing complexion became even more exquisite and beautiful. "7th Miss Who Likes Trash, Lord Overlord, please be gentler with your love." 7th Miss Who Likes Trash, Lord Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 4975. Her pink lips curled into a smile. When he looked at her, his eyes seemed to be filled with a starry sky. Warmth wrapped around him. Diamo Xian's heart suddenly trembled. After a long while, the buzzing sound in his mind gradually stopped. His gaze was deep as he stared unblinkingly at the girl's delicate and charming face. He stretched out his hand and pulled her into his arms. "From the moment I met you, I have already decided that you are my only wife. In this life, even in the afterlife, I will marry no one else but you." The man's low and hoarse voice had his unique magnetism, like a feather tickling her heartstrings. "Yi Qing Luo, my blood is empty." She hugged Diamo Xian tightly. "Then it's decided." The man laughed lowly. His voice was pleasant and intoxicating. Old Man Song's helpless and sighing voice came from Yi Qing Luo's mind. Sigh, a grown-up girl can't be kept at home. You're so passionate, those who don't know would think that you want to marry me so badly. Yiqing Luo's slender brows suddenly rose as if she thought of something, her pink lips curled up and became mischievous. Her long and narrow eyes curved slyly. When she raised her head, the smile on her face faded as she pretended to be serious. I'm the one who proposed, you're the one who married me. To be more precise, I should be the one who married you. Her smile was a bit mischievous as she stretched out her fair hand and hooked his chin. She deliberately raised her eyebrows. So, it's you who wants to marry me. Old man Song. Didn't changing the method mean that you don't hate to marry me? What was with the feeling of an old father who couldn't keep his daughter? Old man Song let out a sigh like an old father. Diamo Xian lowered his eyes, his pupils reflected the young girl's charming face. A young girl with black hair and peach-colored clothes. Her smile was brilliant, like a blooming rose. Her slightly narrowed charming eyes were overflowing with beauty. Just a glance at them would cause one's heart to flutter. His brows gradually softened, even the cold and stiff lines on his face seemed to soften. He slowly held the young girl's hand and raised it. Then he slightly bent down. His dark red lips were imprinted on the back of his hand. It was as if he had kissed his most precious treasure. All right. Marry or marry. As long as it's you, everything's fine. The tip of Yiqing Luo's ears were stained with a thin layer of red. Her Xian was getting better and better at flirting. Every day, I'm overwhelmed with emotions from being teased by my own husband. What should I do? I'm waiting online. His goal was to take care of the Palace of Darkness. Yiqing Luo expressed, he was pumped full of adrenaline. What kind of damned hunting order was this? She wasn't afraid anymore. Yiqing Luo was valiant and high-spirited as she pulled Diamo Xian along as they started their journey towards the Devil region. He was not allowed to walk the right path. Couldn't she take the small path? The facts proved that. Indeed, it was impossible. Just as Yiqing Luo pulled Diamo Xian, bypassing the city, walking on the wild mountain road. In the end, they still ran into each other. They were from the Anshu Hall. This might be the so-called enemies meet on a narrow road. Here's the thing. In the wilderness, there were all kinds of magical beasts crawling here and there. Generally speaking, with a big boss like Diamo Xian by her side. Once the imposing manner was released, the beast's intuition would make them take a detour. But unfortunately, as the two of them held hands as though they were on an outing, shuttling through the wilderness. Thump, 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 magical beast's footsteps approached. When they looked towards the direction of the sound, they saw a huge creature, thousands of densely packed tentacles. Centipede magical beast, opening its mouth full of sharp teeth, dripping with sticky saliva, pouncing towards them. Chapter 4976. This magical beast was already right in front of them and still wanted to eat them? Kill it decisively. Then, just as she was about to send the centipede's corpse flying with a kick. Swoosh, 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 a dense rain of arrows rained down on them. Following that, a group of cultivators dressed in Dark Void Hall's uniform rushed out. Who are you? How dare you? How dare you snatch our Dark Void Hall's prey? That sudden rain of arrows made Yiqing Luo dumbfounded. She was protected in Diamo Xian's arms and avoided those arrows. Yiqing Luo then looked at them. It's you? Some cultivators from Dark Void Hall exclaimed in surprise after seeing Yiqing Luo's face. The person on the Dark Void Hall's kill order. Immediately, more than 10 cultivators rushed out and surrounded Yiqing Luo and Diamo Xian. The two of you made our Dark Void Hall look for you. The leader sneered as he stared at Yiqing Luo and Diamo Xian. So you were hiding in this wilderness. Yiqing Luo raised her brows as she looked at the leader's complacent face, not quite understanding what he was so pleased about. Or did he feel, met her, that he could capture her and Diamo Xian back to the Dark Void Hall to claim the reward? Tiske. Young lad, you're still too young. Yiqing Luo didn't say a word as she pulled out her machete and rushed forward. Following that, the 10 over-cultivators from Dark Void Hall discovered. When they faced Yiqing Luo, they had no way to deal with her at all. What's more, the leader was struck by Yiqing Luo's strange movements and her totally unconventional slashing skills. He was directly injured. His wrists and chest were bleeding from the cuts. The cultivators from Dark Void Hall were stunned. This lady was strange. No wonder Big Master and Second Master were at a disadvantage in her hands. No wonder she was on the Dark Void Hall's kill order. The leader expressed that he couldn't beat her. So, his gaze fell on the centipede's corpse by Yiqing Luo's feet and said, Our Dark Void Hall has always been open and above board. We can't bully a weak lady like you. So, this is the prey of our Anshu Hall. Return the prey to us and we will let you live. Yiqing Luo. What the heck? This was the first time she had seen someone more shameless than her. Honest and upright? More than a dozen people bullying her and she couldn't handle it? Which son of a bitch was fighting with her just now? He really had the cheek to say that. As expected of the shameless Anshu Hall. Yiqing Luo was so angry that she laughed. She lifted her leg and kicked the centipede demonic beast. Her long and narrow eyes were frivolous as she asked with a casual smile, "You want this thing? This is the prey we are hunting." Dark Void Hall's team leader stared at Yiqing Luo with a face full of vigilance. "Hand over our prey and we'll spare your life." Yiqing Luo's smile deepened. Her crescent moon-like charming eyes seemed to be rippling with layers and layers of ripples. Then, under the watchful eyes of everyone, a ball of dazzling profound light appeared in her hand. Boom! The profound light suddenly exploded. It stirred up a hurricane. When the hurricane weakened, it was already too late. Everyone then saw that centipede demonic beast's corpse by Yiqing Luo's feet was like a green smoke, dissipating into the air. It was directly blown up, not leaving any residue behind. "Alright now, there's nothing left." The young lady tilted her head, smiling innocently. Her long and narrow eyes deliberately blinked. Dark Void Hall's cultivators. This action. It was a blatant provocation to them. Simply not putting their Dark Void Hall in their eyes. Chapter 4977. They must have forgotten. If the other party cared about the Anshu Hall, how could he possibly be on the wanted list of the Anshu Hall? You. The leader of the Anshu Hall was enraged. Blue veins popped out on his forehead. This centipede demonic beast was precisely the one they had searched for with great difficulty. It was an essential medicinal ingredient to treat the great master. There were quite a few centipede demonic beasts. However, this extremely powerful high-grade centipede demonic beast was extremely powerful. That was very rare. It could be said, they were lucky to have encountered such a beast. They had put in a lot of effort and many of their companions had died. Only then did he manage to subdue the centipede. However, due to a moment of carelessness, the centipede demonic beast managed to escape. They chased after her. He saw the centipede demonic beast being stepped on by a young girl. It would have been fine if the girl had left the centipede demon beast's corpse as a medicinal ingredient. At least they could think of a way to snatch it. But, the other party had directly blown up the centipede demonic beast's corpse, leaving nothing behind. This was obviously done on purpose. The enemy was targeting the Anshu Hall. The Dark Void Hall's cultivators had already filled in 10,000 words in their minds, regarding Yiqing Luo and the Dark Void Hall's love and hatred. Hence, on the second day of the kill order. On the second day of the city's turmoil. Swish, a flare shot into the sky, announcing Yiqing Luo and DMO Xian's current location. Yiqing Luo raised her head and looked at the signal flare exploding in the sky. "They are looking for help." Scared now. The captain of the Dark Void Hall had a cold look in his eyes. "You're already on the wanted list of the Dark Void Hall, yet you still dare to be so arrogant. Just wait for your death." Yiqing Luo. This young lad's brain wasn't too good, right? She was not stupid. She was not interested in wasting her time here. In any case, he knew that he had inadvertently ruined the opportunity for the leader of the Anshu Hall, Lu Sanzong, to treat his wounds. That was enough. Yiqing Luo pulled DMO Xian along as she turned around and ran. He ran away without any hesitation. It was so fast that the leader of the Dark Void Division did not even have time to react. The two people in front of him had already disappeared. Of course, even if he managed to react, he might not be able to stop it. Yiqing Luo pulled DMO Xian and turned into another part of the dense forest. He could also vaguely hear the angry roars of the Dark Void Division's captain. These people from the Anshu Hall were truly interesting. When she was here, he was as timid as a grandson. She's not here at all. This aura, this explosive roar, it was simply imposing. Yiqing Luo was still thinking if she should turn back to scare them. This thought had just flashed across his mind. Suddenly, the man beside her put his arm around her waist and looked at the other end of the jungle. "Who is it? Someone?" Yiqing Luo raised her brows as she followed DMO Xian's line of sight. In the dense mountain forest, the weeds could be faintly seen swaying in the lush grass. That was not the sway of the wind. Instead, it followed the breathing of a person and swayed gently. Someone was hiding there? She couldn't even sense his aura. Someone from the Anshu Hall? There was no response from the bushes. Dmo Xian's sleeves fluttered slightly and the dark rays spread out silently, brushing past the grass. A series of painful screams could be heard from inside. That cry was very immature. It was a child's voice. Dmo Xian also heard the child's voice and his aura calmed down. The two of them saw a young boy around 8 or 9 years old, bound by an invisible profound ray and brought right in front of Yiqing Luo. The young boy was in a sorry state and his clothes were tattered. But that pair of eyes was unexpectedly clear. Chapter 4978. Yiqing Luo raised her hand and pressed Dmo Xian's arm. The little boy fell onto the ground. That pair of bright eyes stared at the both of them without blinking. Gradually his eyes turned red. The little boy suddenly knelt on the ground and kowtowed to the both of them. I beg you to save me, save my brother. Yiqing Luo? What situation was this? Looking at that little boy crying into a ball, Yiqing Luo inexplicably thought of Feng Shi. She sighed softly, although she was soft-hearted, but she wasn't so silly to let down her guard against this little boy. She waved her sleeves and a profound ray swept past, lifting the little boy up from the ground. The little boy's dirty little face was full of tear stains. That pair of clear eyes was filled with a pleading look of facing death calmly. Facing death calmly? What the hell? She didn't do anything to him. Why did he look as though he was facing death calmly? Did he treat her as a dreadful beast? Then what was the point of asking for help? You dare to go against the Dark Void Hall? You must not be afraid of the power of the Dark Void Hall, right? The little boy's voice trembled, and after being stared at by Yiqing Luo, even his body was trembling. Yiqing Luo raised her hand and touched her own face. Under the boy's hopeful and faintly fearful gaze, she narrowed her eyes slightly and asked instead of answering, Do I look very scary? No matter how one looked at her, her face was very charming and adorable, very pure and innocent. Anyone who saw her would have a good impression of her. Why was this little boy so afraid of her? Angry, happy. The little boy was stunned by this question. He hurriedly shook his head. No, not scary, good looking. Since it's good looking, what are you afraid of? Yiqing Luo retracted her hand in satisfaction. That's right, even if it was a disguised face. That was also good looking. The little boy was stunned for a moment before he reacted and said with a trembling voice, I'm afraid. Afraid that you won't help me? Yiqing Luo's slender brows rose again. You haven't said clearly, what do you want me to help? How do you know that I won't help? The little boy was slightly dazed by Yiqing Luo's question. It took a long time for him to come around. It was Dmo Xian who stretched out his hand and held onto Yiqing Luo's shoulder as his voice was mellow and gentle. This child should have seen you dealing with those people from Dark Void Hall, so she wants to seek your help to deal with Dark Void Hall, right? Yiqing Luo looked at the man beside her with interest. When did you become so enthusiastic? He had always been a person who wouldn't care if things didn't involve her. At this moment he actually took the initiative to speak. The man's eyebrows and eyes were like a painting, showing off his magnificence and elegance. His dark red lips curled up into an indecipherable smile. He lowered his gaze and leaned over. His deep and husky voice carried the unique magnetism of a man, because I thought of our future children. Yiqing Luo. Wasn't she thinking a little too far ahead? She pinched Dmo Xian. Then she turned her gaze to the little boy. Tell me, what do you want me to help you with? Dark Void Hall. I want you to help me deal with Dark Void Hall. The little boy's voice was no longer trembling. He clenched his fists tightly as his eyes were filled with hatred. No one dares to go against Dark Void Hall, and no one dares to say no to Dark Void Hall. But, sister, you dare? As he said that, he wanted to kneel down again. Sister, I beg you, save me, save my brother. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Lord Overlord, please be gentler with your love and please collect it. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Lord Overlord, please be gentler with your love and please hit me. Chapter 4979. Yiqing Luo's sleeves fluttered. Don't be in a hurry to kneel. If you don't explain clearly, how can I help you? This child, what's wrong with him to like to kneel down for no reason? What did the Dark Void Hall do to you? Why do you hate them? And who is your brother? What did they do to him? Yiqing Luo straightened out the young boy's train of thought. With Yiqing Luo's question, the young boy sobbed softly as he answered Yiqing Luo's question. The young boy's name was Jiang Ziyi. He lived in a nearby city, an ordinary family in the most secluded abandoned land. It was such an ordinary family that could be called a slum. would be involved with the Dark Void Hall. The turning point happened on a certain day at a certain moment. A good-looking woman brought along a seriously injured, equally good-looking man to hide in their abandoned courtyard. The young boy's parents were honest and kind-hearted. Seeing someone so seriously injured, they left him behind and went into the mountains to pick herbs to treat the man's injury. Unfortunately, it was this rescue which led to the young boy's family being destroyed. The Dark Void Hall chased after them. Without any explanation, blood splattered across the entire slum. The Dark Void Hall's motive was to capture that man and woman. When the Dark Void Hall arrived, the parents stuffed the boy, the man, and the woman into the basement to avoid a massacre. Yiqing Luo listened to the young boy's furious tone, holding back his tears as he spoke of the hatred between him and the Dark Void Hall. Then he raised his head and looked at Yiqing Luo firmly. "Sister, you're not afraid of the Dark Void Hall. I can only seek help from you. As long as you help me take revenge, I will sell myself to you." He clenched his fists tightly, his eyes scarlet red. "As long as I can take revenge, I am willing to pay any price." Yiqing Luo coughed lightly. "You don't need to sell yourself to me." Although he was a 10-year-old boy, but he was after all a boy. Sell to her? A big vinegar jar. This vinegar jar could not be covered anymore. From the little boy's eyes, which were filled with anger and were flushed red, Yiqing Luo was certain that he wasn't lying. Yiqing Luo pursed her pink lips and asked, "In this case, the brother you mentioned who wanted me to save, is the man who hid in your house?" Jiang Zi nodded. Yiqing Luo's brows rose as she bent over slightly, looking down at him condescendingly. A wisp of cold light rippled out from her pair of long and narrow eyes. Her pink lips curled up as she enunciated clearly, "In conclusion, the tragedy that befell your family was all because you saved that brother. Not only did you not receive any rewards for your good deeds, you even caused your family to be ruined. Don't you hate him?" After finishing this sentence, Yiqing Luo straightened her body as her smile was filled with ridicule. "Why are you still thinking of saving him for? He's the real culprit who killed your parents, isn't he?" The girl's voice was cold and clear. His tone was calm and cold. He was obviously smiling. She even smiled as brightly as a flower. But the words that came out of his mouth were exceptionally sharp. Jiang Zi's eyes widened bit by bit as he listened. She clenched her fists even tighter. Her dirty, tear-stained face was now filled with anger. Big Brother isn't the main culprit. Big Brother is also a victim. Everything is because of the Anshu Hall's ruthlessness and cruelty. End of this chapter. Waste 7th Young Miss. Overlord, please be gentler. Chapter 4980. The little man bit his pale lips. Brother didn't want to stay in the beginning, he was afraid of dragging us down. "It's me, I like Brother, I'm the one who asked Father and Mother to let Brother stay." He lowered his head as tears filled his eyes once again. "Father and Mother have never regretted saving Brother, otherwise they wouldn't have pushed Brother and Sister into the basement with me. Brother's life was exchanged with Father and Mother's lives." He sniffled and suddenly raised his head, glaring at Yiqing Luo. "I'm not as bad as you, blaming everything on Brother." But the moment he raised his head, what he met was the young lady's frivolous pink lips, a satisfied smile. The young lady with black hair and peach blossom clothes slowly walked towards Jiang Ziyi. Slightly bent over, her fair fingers, under Jiang Ziyi's wide-opened eyes, slowly moved to his head. Fiercely it bounced once. Jiang Ziyi regained his senses, hugged his head, crying out in pain. "Over at the Dark Void Hall, they always create trouble for me, it's still not a small problem." Yiqing Luo looked at Jiang Ziyi with a smile. "Anyway, I'm going to destroy the entire Dark Void Hall, so I'll help you take revenge." Jiang Ziyi was still hugging his head. Hearing Yiqing Luo's words, he couldn't react. After some time, his eyes suddenly widened, looking at Yiqing Luo in disbelief. You agreed?" Yiqing Luo's lips curled. "After all, I'm a good person." Jiang Ziyi. Although he didn't feel that she was a good person, but he couldn't say it out. "Where is that brother of yours? Is he about to die or what? Bring me to take a look, perhaps he can still be saved," Yiqing Luo said. Jiang Ziyi's eyes sunk, he lowered his brows, his little hands clenched tightly. "Brother? He was taken away by the Dark Void Hall." Yiqing Luo? Didn't he hide in the basement to escape? Why was he taken away? Did she still have to go to the Dark Void Hall to save him? Was it too late to back out now? Jiang Ziyi opened his mouth weakly. The Dark Void Hall searched the slums, but couldn't find brother and sister, but later on they came again. The man was already heavily injured and had no strength to resist. In order to protect him, the older sister could only watch helplessly as the people from the Anshu hall took her brother away. Bring us to your house first. Yi Qing Luo sighed softly. At the very least, he had to meet that woman and find out what kind of enmity she had with the Anshu hall. Only then could he set out to save them. It was no wonder that the slums were called the slums, especially after being massacred by the Anshu hall. It was already so dilapidated and desolate that it didn't seem like a place suitable for living, making it even more desolate. Yi Qing Luo pulled Dmo Xian as she followed behind Jiang Ziyi, turning here and there. It took a lot of twists and turns. Finally, it stopped in a cave that couldn't be called a house. Jiang Zi ran into the cave and shouted at the top of his lungs, Sister Qing, I found a helper. I found a helper who can help us save brother." The little girl's voice was full of excitement. However, after rushing into the underground cave, when he saw the girl who was ready to set off and was sheathing her sword, his excited expression froze. "Big Sister Qing, where are you going?" End of this chapter. Trash 7th Young Miss. Overlord, please be gentler. Chapter 4981. The lady's exquisite face had a cold expression. A pair of icy cold eyes glanced at Jiang Ziyi as she said coldly, "I'll go save him. There are many people in the Dark Void Hall and they are all very powerful. I heard that they had invited the Jiang family's aristocratic elders over to help." Jiang Ziyi anxiously advised, "Sister Qing, you can't go save him alone. Don't tell me I have to bring you along." The lady's voice was flat. "Our arrival has already caused you enough harm, we don't need you anymore." She walked past Jiang Ziyi and walked straight out. Jiang Ziyi immediately held the lady's hand. "Sister Qing?" The lady didn't turn back. Under her cold and elegant face, there was a slight change in her expression. But it was fleeting. She opened her mouth. "If I can come back alive, I will definitely repay your family's kindness." Saying that, she struggled free from Jiang Ziyi and walked out of the cave without any hesitation. Who's there? Outside the cave, light shone down. It reflected two long slender figures at the entrance of the cave. The lady's eyes were vigilant, her hand holding the long sword as her murderous intent was apparent. Close. A man and a lady standing at the entrance of the cave entered the lady's sight. The young lady was dressed in a peach-pink dress, looking delicate and lovely. The man was dressed in a bamboo-colored long robe, looking delicate and adorable, but his aura was mature and steady. When he came into contact with that pair of sapphire blue eyes, he felt a chill run down his spine. The woman couldn't help but be startled. "You guys. You must be the Sister Qing that Ziyi mentioned." The young lady spoke first, revealing a charming smile. "I'm the helper that Ziyi found to help you save him. My name is Muyu, this is my husband, Chao Yun." She took 2 steps back, revealing the cave entrance, allowing the lady to come out. The lady's eyes were filled with vigilance, sizing up the young lady. It was until Jiang Ziyi ran out of the cave, that Yi Qing Luo and Dmo Xian's identities were confirmed. The lady's expression was cold, her eyes were cold and distant. "I don't need anyone's help. Sister Qing." Jiang Ziyi grabbed the lady's hand. "This sister is very powerful, she can easily make those people from the Dark Void Hall in the palm of her hand." The lady glanced at Yi Qing Luo indifferently, looking at the young lady's innocent look, her expression turned colder. "I don't need your help." Yi Qing Luo crossed her arms over her chest. With a slight smile on her face, she casually said, "As for me, I'm the one who issued the kill order from the Dark Void Hall, so I'm in an irreconcilable situation with the Dark Void Hall. Even if I'm not helping you, I'm going to exterminate the Dark Void Hall. So, you don't have to worry about implicating me because I'm already a part of this." The woman's lips moved, but no words came out. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows rose. "Miss also wants to save your friend, right? One more person, one more portion of strength. It's better than to charge into the Dark Void Hall alone and then die together with your friend in the Dark Void Hall, isn't that right?" Jiang Zi. Somehow he felt that this analogy was a bit weird. The cold woman fell silent for several breaths of time. After some time she slowly cupped her hands towards Yi Qing Luo. Her voice was slightly cold, but her tone was especially solemn. "My name is Tong Zi Qing, thank you for joining us." Yi Qing Luo smiled, her eyes were as delicate as a painting. "No need to apologize, we're in a relationship of helping each other." "Zi Qing, long time no see." She didn't expect to meet her here. Then the one who was being pursued by the Dark Void Hall. The one who needed her to save him. The brother that Jiang Ziyi mentioned. It should be him. Yes, who pinched him? The answer to the riddle can only be revealed if the tickets are left. End of this chapter. 7th Young Miss. Overlord, be gentle with your love. Chapter 4982. Long Yunzhan. Tong Ziqing had always been with Long Yunzhan. Tong Ziqing would be here. And she planned to save someone alone. That person must be Long Yunzhan. But what made Yiqing Luo felt strange was Long Yunzhan was someone whom the Dark Palace had arranged to be in the Devil class, which was the person who was arranged to be by her side, which was also someone from the Dark Palace. The Dark Void Hall was the Dark Palace, using the Jiang family's aristocrats to create trouble. According to this logic, Long Yunzhan was considered to be in cahoots with the Dark Void Hall. Why did the people from the Dark Void Hall want to kill Long Yunzhan? She was filled with doubts. But at this moment, the person who was carrying the Yi Muyu Qing Luo little vest could not lose her character and could not fall off the horse. So she could only pretend to be casual as she casually asked, "Who are you trying to save? Why are you being chased by the people from the Dark Void Hall?" To the extent that they even massacred the entire slums. How big of an enmity did they have? Tong Ziqing's cold brows sunk slightly. She lowered her eyes and didn't say a word, with no intention to answer Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo didn't continue asking as she changed the topic. "Do you know where the people from the Dark Void Hall have captured your friend?" Tong Ziqing's hand, which was holding the weapon, tightened slightly as a cold glint flashed past her eyes. She pursed her slightly pale lips as she spoke in a chilly tone. "I know where the headquarters of the Dark Void Hall is." "All right, then you lead the way." Yiqing Luo nodded her head without much emotion. Such a straightforward reply, which made Tong Ziqing stunned. She raised her pair of cold, beautiful eyes as she stared at Yiqing Luo without blinking. "Aren't you curious as to how I know? If you want to tell me, you will naturally tell me." Yiqing Luo's long and slender eyes curved like the moon. "If you don't want to say, even if I ask you, you won't say, so why bother?" She curled her lips slightly. "Dealing with the Dark Void Hall is not just to help you save someone. As the saying goes, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. If you know where the headquarters of the Dark Void Hall is, there are only advantages and no disadvantages for me. Why should I care? How did you know where the Anshu Hall's headquarters is?" The girl's tone was very indifferent, and there was not much emotion in her voice. A few simple sentences. It made Tong Ziqing's heart tighten for no reason. Her long and beautiful eyelashes fluttered twice like butterfly wings. When he looked at Yiqing Luo, there were some hidden emotions in the depths of his eyes. Then, are we going now?" Jiang Ziyi did not notice the surging emotions between the two adults. He clenched his fists tightly, and his young face was filled with hatred. "I must kill the people of Anshu Hall to avenge my parents and the people around me." Yiqing Luo originally didn't intend to bring Jiang Ziyi along. However, when she saw the burning rage in the boy's clear eyes, which seemed to be able to incinerate everything in the surroundings, she couldn't help but feel a chill down her spine. She silently called out to him, "Follow him closely, don't leave him by even half a step, do you understand?" Yiqing Luo pointed at the man beside her, and then looked at Jiang Ziyi solemnly. "If there's a chance, I'll let you personally take revenge, but if the timing isn't right, you're not allowed to forcefully take revenge, understand?" The boy pursed his lips tightly as he nodded his little head hard. He took small steps as he inched towards Diamo Xian's side. "I will definitely follow brother closely." 7th Miss Who Likes Trash. "Overlord, please be gentler with your love, everyone please collect it." 7th Miss Who Likes Trash. "Overlord, please be gentler with your love, the updates are the fastest." Chapter 4983. The little person's expression of facing death with equanimity made people unable to restrain their laughter. Yiqing Luo's slender finger poked his glabella. "Don't worry, with us around, we won't send you to your death. Even if you don't personally take revenge, you will definitely be able to do so." Jiang Ziyi blinked his eyes and raised his hand to touch the spot on his forehead that had been poked. Those delicate and fair fingers felt very soft to the touch. He didn't know if it was an illusion, this young girl who looked delicate and charming, but her words and actions were cold and indifferent, making it hard for people to understand her. He seemed to have become gentle. When she looked at him, her gaze became much gentler. What was going on? Yiqing Luo stretched out her hand and stuffed it into the man's broad palm. She leaned forward and said with a sweet smile, Ayun, I'll have to trouble you to look after this little one." The man did not answer. However, the emotions in his eyes darkened a little. Yi Qing Luo's empty hand stretched out to Diamo Shen's face and pinched it as she smiled. "All right, I will also keep following you and guarantee that I will be within your line of sight, obediently letting you protect me." The girl's soft voice, under the deliberate coquettishness, carried her unique softness. A trace of helpless affection flashed across the man's eyes that were as deep as obsidian. He raised his hand and rubbed the girl's head, his eyes filled with helplessness. Jiang Zi did not understand. But how would Diamo Shen not know what she was thinking? Why would the young girl suddenly be so concerned? Apart from Jiang Zi, this little boy's temperament was very much to the girl's liking. However, it wasn't to the extent where the girl's kind heart would explode. But because she told him about the Anshu Hall's massacre of the slums and the destruction of Jiang Zi's family, piled on her own body. Because this matter was related to her brother. The young girl had always cared about the friendship between brothers. In order to save Long Yunzhan, Jiang Zi suffered a bloodbath. Thus, the girl shouldered this hatred on herself. This was his little Luo heir. The headquarters of the Anshu Hall was located about 2 cities away from the slums. It was located in the middle of the border between the main city of the God Realm and the God Realm. The 3 of them, along with the child, hurried on their way. It also took an entire afternoon. By the time they arrived at the city, the sky was already dark. Yi Qing Luo and Diamo Shen were still on the wanted list. Unable to reveal himself, he could only observe from the dark. Tong Ziqing changed her clothes and made some slight adjustments. She looked like a different person. Jiang Zi, on the other hand, cleaned himself up, changed into a clean set of clothes, and tied himself up with a young master's cloak. It was as if he had been reborn. It was likely that even the profound practitioners of Dark Void Hall who had seen Jiang Zi before would not be able to recognize him now that they were face to face. The 2 of them entered the city and found a relatively lively restaurant to rest. The restaurant was the place where news spread the fastest. Tong Ziqing brought Jiang Zi to eat on the first floor. He could hear the people around him discussing in low voices about the Anshu Hall. The bounty issued by the Anshu Hall had caused a huge uproar. Even the elders of the Jiang clan had rushed over. Everyone was guessing the identity of the man and woman on the bounty, and how they had offended the Anshu Hall. "I heard, it's because the woman on the bounty list had injured the deputy head of the Anshu Hall. First head wanted to avenge his cousin, so he made such a big fuss. Just because of an injury, they made the entire city cooperate with the Anshu Hall's investigation? 7th Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. 7th Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love." Chapter 4984. Now that the Dark Void Hall is the dominant force, what can we ordinary people do? Sigh. That Dark Void Hall's vice leader is not a good person. If someone is willing to teach the Dark Void Hall a lesson, it would be good for the people. Shoo. You're courting death. If the Dark Void Hall heard this, you won't be able to see tomorrow's sun. The crowd discussed in low voices. Most of them were waiting to see a good show. Everyone here was extremely powerful, and if they were to really fight head-on, they might not necessarily lose to a profound practitioner. Now a wild chicken force came out of nowhere, backed by the Jiang family's aristocrats, and wantonly swaggered in the God Realm. This had already made everyone dissatisfied. If not for the worry that the other party's methods were too insidious, harming their loved ones or siblings, they would have rebelled long ago. Of course. The bigger reason was humans' bad nature. No matter how high one's strength was. Anyway, it had nothing to do with them, let it go. Before it really hurt their interest. Most people avoided it if they could. At most, it would be like this now. A few words of ridicule. Then they still let the Dark Void Hall's power grow day by day. In Yi Qing Luo's eyes, she felt that this group of people in the God Realm had completely lived in comfort for too long. High and mighty, the God Realm that no one dared to blaspheme. They had lost their sense of crisis. Just like the important members of the aristocrats, one after another died on the streets, the cause of death unknown, until more than half of them died. Then the God Realm had some reaction. But there was still no vigilance. But now, the Dark Void Hall's power came out of nowhere, like a weed rising rapidly. The people in the God Realm still avoided it if they could. Comfortable for a long time, confident for a long time. Actually, it was not a good thing. This group of people in the God Realm, sooner or later, they would regret it. Tong Ziqing brought Jiang Ziyi, after listening to some gossip, They got up and returned to the room. The moment they entered the room, she saw Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian sitting at the tea table discussing something. Tong Ziqing said indifferently, entering the city not worried of being discovered? Originally Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian were arranged to wait outside the city, waiting for the night to meet and then sneak into the Dark Void Hall headquarters. He did not expect the two of them to enter the city at this time. Yiqing Luo's little hand played with the man's slender jade-like fingers, her lips curled into a faint smile. With Ayun around, you won't be able to find out. Tong Ziqing stared deeply at the handsome man, her slightly cold eyes faintly showing some doubt. Why do I feel like the way this young couple interacted with each other was very familiar? He seemed to have seen it somewhere before. But at the moment he couldn't remember. Yiqing Luo saw Tong Ziqing staring at her and lifted her eyes slightly as she asked with a smile in her eyes, "What's the matter?" "Nothing much." Tong Ziqing averted her gaze, her cold face revealing a bit of dejection. "It's just that when I see young Master Chao's eyes I can't help but think of that friend who was taken away by the Anshu Hall." Yiqing Luo glanced sideways at the man's pure and harmless eyes which were like a gem. His powerful aura couldn't hide the innocence and cuteness of his face and eyes. His eyes were as blue as the sea. He was indeed somewhat similar to Long Yunzhan. Yiqing Luo pretended not to know as she laughed lightly. "Ayun's eyes are indeed different from ordinary people, but because it's him I like it." Tong Ziqing seemed to have thought of something because of Yiqing Luo's words. That cold eyes revealed a bit of gentleness. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Di Zun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Di Zun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 4985. That's right. Because it's him, no matter what kind of him he likes. The lady muttered softly. The corners of her lips faintly curled upwards into an extremely shallow arc. By the time she regained her senses, she met with a pair of mischievous smiling eyes. The he, in Ziqing's words, should be the person you want to save, right? Tong Ziqing's face surfaced a rare tinge of red. On that cold and elegant face, it added a unique charm which belonged to her. I can tell that Ziqing likes him very much. Yiqing Luo smiled as she looked at Tong Ziqing's current look, as she couldn't help but sigh. Love was really something which could change a person. She stretched out her hand and held Tong Ziqing's hand. Tong Ziqing, who obviously didn't like outsiders to touch her. Right now when she felt the warmth coming from her palm. For some unknown reason. She wasn't willing to shift her hand away. As though holding this hand. During this period of time when she left the world group, all the grievances, hardships and tiredness. As though she had obtained a place for her to rely on, for her to vent her frustrations. As though holding this hand. Her heart was able to calm down. Don't worry, he will definitely be fine. The young lady's smile was gentle. We will definitely save him back safely. A soft voice, a firm tone. It obviously didn't use much strength. But it made Tong Ziqing's heart raise a kind of, as long as she said it, she would definitely be able to do it. If she said she could save Long Yunzhan back, then she would definitely be able to do it. Tong Ziqing's heart was beating wildly. She stared blankly at the smiling young lady in peach blossom robes and black hair. Unknowingly the other party. And that unbridled and flamboyant red-robed young lady in her mind overlapped together. She suddenly understood. Why did she inexplicably agree to the other party's request for help? Why did she inexplicably choose to believe her? And why did she inexplicably place her hopes on her? Because this young lady, she and Qing Luo really resembled each other. The kind of trustworthy aura which was emitted from them was extremely similar. It made one uncontrollably feel relieved. She was really similar to Qing Luo. Presumably, whatever she said, she would definitely be able to do it. Tong Ziqing laughed involuntarily, and the gentleness between her brows became even more apparent. The hand that was holding the young girl's hand tightened. Night. In the pitch-black sky, a few inconspicuous stars were faintly flashing. The cold wind blew and the surrounding trees rustled. A few figures flashed past and disappeared into the darkness. The headquarters of the Anshu Hall could not be considered a secret. However, on the surface, it was the territory of the branch forces of the Jiang clan. On the inside, it was the headquarters of the Anshu Hall. That day Yiqing Luo followed Tong Ziqing, all the way into the inner region. The deeper they went, one could clearly feel the evil energy of the dark nether palace spreading throughout the headquarters. This kind of cold and gloomy aura made her extremely displeased. Along the way they avoided countless search parties. They entered the depths of the Anshu Hall. Tong Ziqing looked around and said in a low voice, "I don't know where he's imprisoned. I'll go to the dungeon to look for it first. You guys wait for me here. Let's split up and search if there's any news." Yi Qing Luo nodded and pondered for a moment. "Once we find him, we'll save him first." Tong Ziqing pursed her lips, not knowing what she was thinking about. After a moment of silence, she took out a palm-sized wooden token from her sleeve and passed it to Yi Qing Luo. "Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Di Zun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Di Zun, please be gentler with your love." Chapter 4986. This is the World Mercenary Group's token. If you find anyone you can communicate through the token. The mercenary group's token could be used for communication within a short distance. Yi Qing Luo received the token as her gaze congealed on the token, the two words, "the world." A warm feeling arose from the bottom of her heart. He hadn't touched her token. Her fingertips gently caressed the outline of the two words as her pink lips curled, "the world. So, you're also from the World Mercenary Group. You know about the World Mercenary Group?" Tong Ziqing was stunned as she was puzzled. Why would someone from God Realm know about the Lower Realms Mercenary Group? "I met them not long ago and my life was saved by them." Yi Qing Luo laughed lightly. "Looks like we're really fated." Tong Ziqing took a deep look at Yi Qing Luo. Immediately, she turned around and disappeared into the darkness. Yi Qing Luo kept the token and hooked the man's arm. "As for us, before we find anyone, let's go do something meaningful." The young lady arched her eyebrows craftily as she winked at the man. Her eyes were filled with ridicule and naughty smiles. Just one eye contact. The man had already seen through the young lady's thoughts. His eyes were filled with adoration as his lips curled helplessly. Following that, he held onto the young lady's slender waist. After that, one hand was holding onto the young lady while the right leg was dragging the tiny one. Just like that, they silently shuttled through Dark Void Hall's headquarters. No one noticed. All the way until they reached a backyard. The air was filled with the fragrance of food. "Sister, what are we doing in the kitchen?" Jiang Ziyi's eyes stared straight as he swallowed his saliva while asking. Yi Qing Luo was all smiles as she asked, "Do you want to do something bad?" Jiang Ziyi stared straight into the kitchen. "Steal food to eat?" "No." Yi Qing Luo's fingertips moved and a white jade bottle appeared in her palm. "Do you want to steal food or do you want to take revenge?" The tiny man's eyes congealed. "Revenge." He swiftly turned his gaze towards Yi Qing Luo as his eyes no longer drooled over the food. Yi Qing Luo stuffed the white jade bottle into his hand as she pointed to the front. "See that well over there? Pour the contents in the bottle into it." Jiang Ziyi didn't hesitate at all. With the small jade bottle in hand, he walked straight to the well. It was the middle of the night. There was no one else in the kitchen except for a few kitchen maids. Jiang Ziyi's operation was very smooth. After pouring out the contents of the medicine bottle, he carefully returned to Yi Qing Luo's side and returned the bottle to her. "Sister, what's that?" "Something that can allow you to take revenge." Yi Qing Luo smiled as she pinched his face. "Now let's go and save them. You bunch of trash." The sound of something being smashed came from a courtyard. In the quiet night it was extremely loud. "I can't even find a single person. What's the use of keeping a bunch of trash like you? If you still can't find him tomorrow, you don't have to come see me again." At this moment Yi Qing Luo and the other two were in the dark, staring at the movements in the room. The enraged Lu Sanzong was sitting at the head of the bed. The floor around his feet was messy, and it seemed like he had dropped a lot of things. His right hand hung by the side of the bed, still wrapped in a thick bandage. The other hand was clenched into a fist, unable to contain his anger. In front of Lu Sanzong, a bunch of Dark Void Hall's cultivators knelt on the ground with their heads lowered, not daring to say a word. "Cousin." A lady's weak voice was heard from the side. LV&I was supported by the maid as she walked in. "There's news from that side. 7th Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. 7th Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love." Chapter 4987. What news? When Lu Sanzong saw the person who came, the anger on his face retracted slightly. LV&I looked at the mess in the room and frowned slightly. When she sat by Lu Sanzong's bedside, she then instructed, Tidy up the things. A group of Dark Void Hall practitioners looked at each other in dismay. Until LV's maid started to clean up the mess on the floor. Then she immediately went forward to help. There's news from the Jiang family's side. LV raised her eyes and looked at Lu Sanzong. The person they're looking for has been found. Feng family's young miss? Found? Lu Sanzong instantly sat up straight. Who found her? Where did they find her? It's from second head. LV's expression was slightly ugly. Family head Jiang is very happy and rewarded second head with quite a number of good things. That ain't great. Lu Sanzong was so angry that he punched the bed, causing the wound on his right wrist to hurt again. His face was pale as he bared his teeth in anger. We actually let them beat us to it. Do you know how second head found that person? LV glanced at Lu Sanzong's face, which was filled with anger as the meaning in her eyes deepened. Under Lu Sanzong's puzzled gaze, her lips twitched as she ridiculed. Because of the World Group, those few yellow-haired brats in the World Group. The World Group? Were they the young boys and girls who had defeated them twice in a row? The World Mercenary Group that even the Jiang family's noble elders were unable to stop. What has it got to do with them? Lu Sanzong's brows knitted tightly. LV sneered. That mercenary group is Feng family's young Mrs. Mercenary Group. After second head had investigated this matter, he followed that mercenary group and also followed that mercenary group and found the direction that Feng family's young miss was heading towards. Lu Sanzong's face darkened bit by bit. No wonder LV was so angry. They were the first to encounter the World Mercenary Group. They were also the first to cross hands with the World Mercenary Group. Now they actually let second head beat them to it? How could they not be angry? If second head really followed Feng family's young miss and found the place that Jiang family's aristocrats were looking for, then the position of the second head would definitely surpass theirs. At that time he, the leader, would probably have to give up his position. Once he abdicated. How could the second head, who always liked to fight with him, let him go so easily? You pig brain, you only know how to be angry. Other than being angry, what else can you do? LV scolded without giving him any face. Lu Sanzong didn't get angry. Instead his eyes lit up. Cousin, do you have any ideas? Since the second in command knows to investigate her, do you think I don't? LV sneered. We still have a trump card in our hands. Lu Sanzong did not expect this at first. After seeing the meaningful smile on LV's face, then, as though recalling something, he asked, You're talking about the man we've just captured? That person is said to be the leader of the World Mercenary Group, and he has a close relationship with Miss Feng. LV's eyes flashed with a scheming light. Say, if the news that he's in our hands spreads to Miss Feng, will she return to our side to save him? Lu Sanzong's eyes lit up. He clapped his hands. Why didn't I think of that? But he thought of something and his smile froze. But, cousin, that person is wanted by the higher-ups. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 4988. If they were to be used as hostage. If any accident happened and the higher-ups found out, they would not be able to escape the blame. What are you panicking for? LV stared at him in annoyance. Anyway, that person is locked up in our headquarters. What's there to be afraid of being rescued? Lu Sanzong thought about it and agreed. There were 3 floors inside and outside, and not only the people from Dark Void Hall. There were also people from the Jiang family's aristocrats stationed around. This was because this place was safe. Otherwise the two of them would not specially run back to the headquarters to recuperate. Second Master thought that by following those young lads, he would be able to find Miss Feng's location. LV sneered. Little did he know that we have a way to make Miss Feng come to us on her own accord. Vice Hall Master. Suddenly, the cultivator who was squatting down to pack up opened his mouth cautiously. LV looked over. A pair of slender eyes revealed a sharp cold glint. The cultivator trembled in fear as he continued to speak while trembling with fear. I heard that. Second Master had chased the wrong person. Chased the wrong person? LV raised her brows. Where did you hear that from? Jiang family's 2 elders. When they were drinking and chatting, I happened to be serving them by the side. The cultivator's voice trembled as he replied. Jiang family's aristocrats. LV frowned slightly as she looked at Lu Sanzong. Have you heard? No. Lu Sanzong shook his head. LV and I stood up and pointed at that cultivator. You stay, the rest leave. The other cultivators were already covered in cold sweat. Hearing LV's command, one by one they hurriedly jogged out of the room. LV and I raised her foot and walked towards the profound practitioner. Her eyes narrowed slightly as she questioned, "Tell me everything you know." The cultivator said, "I heard from those two elders. That Miss Feng who was discovered by Second Master might just be a cover. That Miss Feng is very sinister and cunning. How could she possibly reveal her tracks and let us find out? Yi Qing Luo, who was secretly described as sinister and cunning. She did it in such a straightforward and upright manner. How was she sinister and cunning? Weren't they the sinister and cunning ones? How dare they push the blame to others? I refuse to accept this." That profounder continued. "Elders even said that if that young miss of the Feng clan is the young miss of the Feng clan, then it's better to say that the woman they encountered, the woman who injured both of you, is the young miss of the Feng clan." Yi Qing Luo. She had to say those two elders were the truth. How could he get it right? Should she silence him or something? Behind her, the man with his arms around her slender waist chuckled softly. His warm and broad chest rose and fell slightly because of his laughter. He bent down and said in a voice that only the two of them could hear, "The palace of gloomy shadow really knows you well, Yi Qing Luo." She didn't want this kind of understanding. However, the two elders were merely suspicious. As long as the two fakes were not exposed, she was not worried at all. Anyway, it didn't matter if the counterfeit was real or fake. With the blood-bone barbarian king following them, it would definitely become real. These words were really said by an elder of the Jiang clan? LV's brows were tightly knitted, and her tone was somewhat displeased. The cultivator hurriedly lowered his head. "I don't dare to speak nonsense." "All right, you can leave first." LV and I waved her hand. When the cultivator walked to the door, he spoke in a cold voice, "This matter you." Chapter 4989. I don't know anything. The cultivator knew that a wise man submits to circumstances. He quickly stood still and expressed his position. LV and I hooked her lips in satisfaction and motioned him to leave. Only the two cousins were left in the room. Lu Sanzong then said, "Cousin, do you think what he said is true? The Miss Feng that the second head of the family is chasing is not the real Miss Feng?" "I said you have a pig's brain, but you are really a pig." LV and I rolled her eyes and snorted coldly. "You believe what others say?" Lu Sanzong's eyes widened. "You mean, he is lying to us?" Lu Sanzong's face darkened instantly. "How bold of you to deceive us." "I have to." "Shut up." LV and I poked his head angrily. "It's a miracle that you can live until now and even sit in this position with this brain. Aunt knows that I am stupid, so she specially asked you to come and help me." Lu Sanzong rubbed his head and leaned towards LV and I in a fawning manner. "Cousin, tell me clearly. What is going on? Find someone to keep an eye on that person just now. Maybe he is the second head of the family's people. He just wants us to relax our vigilance." LV's eyes darkened slightly, and a trace of coldness flashed across her slender eyes. "Moreover, even if what he said is true, it doesn't mean that the idle talk of the two elders is true." LV and I took out a letter from her arms. "The second head of the family will investigate, but I can't?" She put the letter beside Lu Sanzong and said, "Miss Feng has an extraordinary relationship with the mysterious overlord. Miss Feng can pretend to be the overlord, but can he? Moreover, Miss Feng not only has a personal guard of the former emperor of the God Emperor accompanying and escorting her, but there are also people from the imperial palace, secretly protecting her." She sneered. "Do you think it is not true?" Lu Sanzong didn't expect that this cousin of his had already done so many things without him knowing anything. He stared at the letter and grinned. "Since that's the case, then this news can be sent to second head." LV and I glanced at him. "You are finally enlightened." Lu Sanzong stuffed the letter back into his arms as his gaze landed on his injured arm. "But, before this, that slut who injured us must be found." He mentioned that woman called Muyu. LV's expression sunk as her eyes blazed with anger. But she still spoke rationally. "Get your priorities. Your position is already unstable. Why are you still thinking of finding an enemy? Spread the news of that person being in our hands to the world group or young Miss Feng's ears. Let's lead Miss Feng to our side and intercept Second Master's path." LV and I narrowed her eyes dangerously. "As for that young couple, The order to kill them has already been issued to the entire God realm. Those two won't be able to escape even if they grow wings. Lu Sanzong agreed with his cousin unconditionally. In the dark. LV Ni's analysis was as ferocious as a tiger. In the end, it cleared away the suspicions of the two elders. Yiqing Luo almost burst out laughing. Could this be called? Cleverness can be misled by cleverness. Chapter 4990. Suddenly the token in Yiqing Luo's bosom shook. She fished out the world group's token and Tong Ziqing's cold voice was transmitted into her mind. Found him. Where? Yiqing Luo asked. Tong Ziqing replied, southwest direction, walk straight, the innermost courtyard. She paused for a moment and continued, there are quite a number of Dark Void Hall cultivators guarding outside the courtyard and it's heavily guarded. It's not easy to save him. Yiqing Luo asked, have you gone in? Tong Ziqing replied, there are even more people in the room where he's locked up. If I go in now, I might alert the enemy. Are you certain that the person inside is the person you want to save? The heavily guarded place might not necessarily be Long Yunzhan. Tong Ziqing replied confidently, I sensed his presence, it's him. As long as you're certain. Yiqing Luo's long and narrow eyes squinted as her pink lips curled into a mischievous smile. Her crafty eyes glanced towards Dmo Xian. The man gave a helpless and pampering laugh as he raised his palm and rubbed her little head. As long as you're happy. The two of them obviously didn't say anything. But they had an incomparable tacit understanding. Little Jiang Ziyi was dazed from what he saw. He wanted to ask but was afraid that if he moved or spoke, he would be discovered by the people from Dark Void Hall. Following that, he heard the young lady intentionally lowering her voice so that he couldn't hear it clearly, but it was still a clear and melodious voice. Ziqing, now you? Directly go and save him, do you have the confidence? Jiang Ziyi's eyes suddenly widened. Save him? Let Sister Qing save him alone? Wasn't this too dangerous? The token remained silent for a moment, as though it was observing the surrounding terrain. Following that, Tong Ziqing said, I'll try. Not try but, do you have the confidence? Yiqing Luo's tone was irresistible. After saving him, hang on till we rush over. Tong Ziqing remained silent for some time before spitting out a word, all right. Then. Yiqing Luo's pink lips curled as she bent over and picked up the little boy on the ground, throwing him into Dmo Xian's arms. Action begin. Following the young lady's soft tone was heard. That black-haired young lady had already flown out from the darkness. Who's that? LV and Lu Sanzong reacted instantly and looked towards the direction where the dark force came from. Then he saw a young girl with delicate and picturesque features, who seemed like the girl next door, appear out of nowhere. Without any explanation, he took out a shining machete and slashed it at their faces. Bitch, it's you. Lu Sanzong hurriedly dodged to the side and stared at the young girl in disbelief. His face twisted. How did you know about this place? Bang! The exquisite bed was cut into two halves by a single slash of the saber. Lu Sanzong and LV quickly separated. It was the middle of the night and they were in their own territory. The two of them did not even bring their weapons with them. LV glanced around and quickly flew toward a nearby desk, attempting to retrieve the sword hanging on the wall behind the desk. A cold light flashed in front of him. The girl swung her machete horizontally. That saber technique was ferocious and disorderly. In any case, it was just a random hack, forcefully intercepting LV little movements. Since you dare to issue a kill order, then you should be mentally prepared for me to come knocking on your door. The girl's clear and melodious voice sounded exceptionally cold in the cold night. Her pink lips curled up slightly as the machete in her hand changed unpredictably. The profound ray saber technique merged together and it was like a huge dragon baring its fangs and brandishing its claws as it soared into the sky. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 4991. How dare you barge into our turf? Lu Sanzong's face turned green from Yiqing Luo's arrogant actions. He raised his voice and shouted, Guards! Guards! Yiqing Luo scoffed as she speedily moved towards Lu Sanzong. The machete in her hand danced as the profound rays burst out. The huge dragon roared and entangled Lu Sanzong in it. The bounty order has been issued for so long, aren't you anxious to find me? The machete in Yi Qing Luo's hand was already close to Lu Sanzong's neck. Her lips twitched as she gave a low laugh. "Isn't that why I'm here, to fulfill your wish so that you can be happier?" The moment her machete was close to Lu Sanzong's neck, orderly footsteps were heard outside the door. Following that, a group of patrolling guards rushed in. Yi Qing Luo was all smiles as she faced those guards as her hand shook slightly. The sharp blade directly slit Lu Sanzong's neck. Scarlet blood stained the blade. "Don't scare me. If you scare me, my hand won't listen to me." Yi Qing Luo didn't want to waste any time. She held the hostage in her hands. Her vision looked towards a certain direction. LV&I had been paying attention to Yi Qing Luo's actions. At the moment she saw her, an ominous premonition arose in her heart. Her woman's intuition made her turn back swiftly. But it was already too late. Behind her, a heavy injury, along with a majestic profound ray, struck her back. LV&I's entire body flew forward. A bam sound was heard. Coincidentally, she fell face down beside Yi Qing Luo's feet. The young lady unreservedly raised her leg and stepped on her back. LV&I wanted to struggle, but the intense pain on her back made her unable to even mobilize the profound energy in her body. She turned her head and looked towards the direction where she was attacked earlier. She saw a bamboo-colored figure, carrying a little boy in his hand, casually stepping into her line of sight. The man's handsome face looked innocent and harmless. A pair of eyes as pure as the ocean was covered with frost. "That man, not good, not good." Right at this moment, the panicked voice of a profounder resounded from outside. "Leader, the western courtyard has been robbed." West courtyard. Lu Sanzong's heart trembled. When that profounder charged over, he noticed that the atmosphere here was strange. Then he saw the domineering appearance of the two leaders being held against their necks by a young girl with black hair and peach-colored clothes. One of them was holding a knife against their necks, while the other was stepping on them. In that instant, Zhang Xian was stunned. "Go to the west courtyard. Go to the west courtyard." At this time, Lu Sanzong could not care less about the machete on his neck. He was so anxious that his whole face turned red. The people of the west courtyard must not be lost. "Quick! Send someone to stop them." "First Master, what's the rush?" The girl's ghostly voice rang in Lu Sanzong's ears. She slightly bent her eyebrows and gently patted his face with the machete. "I'll take you two cousins there now." After saying that, she kicked LV&I's body. LV&I let out a blood-curdling scream. LV&I soared into the air. Following that, Yi Qing Luo clasped her neck and lifted her up. Following that, the peach-colored clothes and black-hair young lady. Under the dark night, a magnificent color flashed past and disappeared in front of everyone's eyes. At the same time, that cold and chilly man who seemed to be strolling in his own back garden followed closely behind the young lady. Everyone. Did they not have any sense of existence? Were all the assassins nowadays so arrogant? Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler and collect. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler and hit me. Chapter 4992. Why are you still in a day's chase? One of them reacted and immediately raised his voice to remind them. Then a large group of people rushed in the direction of the west courtyard. Yi Qing Luo, who was using her teleportation technique to head towards the southwest direction, casually threw Lu Sanzong to Dmo Xian. Her plan was simple. Tong Ziqing to save people. She would use the hostage to attract attention. Two hostages in her hands. The cultivators in the dark void hall would more or less have some scruples. And the bigger the mess she made, the more arrogant she would be. It would be easier for Tong Ziqing to save them. Her aim was only to save people. She didn't intend to destroy their hall now. Anyway, after tomorrow morning, the Dark Void Hall headquarters would collapse by half. By then she would create another wave of trouble. At this moment, the Dark Void Hall was instantly in an uproar. The originally dark Void Hall. In a split second it was brightly lit. Countless footsteps sounded, one after another. The entire Dark Void Hall was in a mess. On one side, their first master and deputy master had been captured. On the other side, the people whom the higher-ups asked them to guard had been kidnapped. They were King deliberately targeting the Anshu Hall and stirring up trouble. In an instant, wave after wave of guards and cultivators, all gathered towards the west courtyard. Yi Qing Luo clicked her tongue and looked down at LV&I, whose face was twisted in pain. Her pink lips were frivolous, delicate and picturesque eyebrows, with a young lady's sweet and soft smile. But what entered LV&I's ears was a bone-chilling, malicious voice. Tisuke, I didn't expect, you guys are quite valued, so many people are here to save you. She tilted her head and blinked her charming eyes, vividly displaying the words pure and innocent. I don't know if they can save you? Yiqing Luo's speed was extremely fast. He jumped up and down, trying to avoid being caught by those Shen cultivators. LV&I was kicked by DMO Shen. Kicked to the point that her internal organs were ruptured. The pain was heart-wrenching. Now Yiqing Luo was grabbing her by the throat, swinging around. She almost vomited blood and fainted. Another large wave of Protector Profound practitioners surged over from the front. Yiqing Luo's peripheral vision swept a figure, carrying another person, speedily moving towards her direction. It was Tong Ziqing. The person she was carrying on her shoulder was the blue-robed, pale-faced Long Yunzhan, whose eyes were closed. At this moment Long Yunzhan's hair was messy. Even his robes were tattered. Obviously, it wasn't easy being locked up here. Yiqing Luo's vision swiftly swept past Long Yunzhan's exposed skin. When he didn't see any particularly serious injuries, he retracted his gaze that was gradually turning cold. As long as they were rescued, it would be fine. She lowered her eyes and looked at LV&I, who was on the verge of death. While Tong Ziqing was rushing over, Lin Fan's expression changed. She said, "Take him away first. Yun and I will stay behind." Tong Ziqing was stunned for a moment. She glanced sideways at the motionless man whose eyes were tightly shut. Clenching his teeth, he carried the man and passed by Yiqing Luo, flying towards the outer walls of the Dark Void Hall headquarters. Ah! Suddenly a miserable shriek was heard. Those guards who were chasing after Tong Ziqing suddenly paused. Their gazes all turned towards the direction of the miserable shriek. A young lady in peach robe with jet black hair held a biting cold blade in her hands, unknowingly stuck to LV&I's neck. Fresh blood was flowing down along the blade. That miserable shriek was made by LV&I. Chapter 4993. Aya, there are too many people, I accidentally. My hand shook. The young lady blinked her apologetic eyes carelessly. Please don't scare me. If I'm not careful, your two heads will fall to the ground. The young lady's voice was tender and soft. Her curved eyebrows were lovely like a painting. Just looking at the surface, it was really unexpected that this young lady would do such a cruel thing as what she said. He ran away. Someone noticed that Tong Ziqing had already carried someone and leaped over the wall. Immediately someone wanted to chase over there. Don't move. The young lady's soft voice rippled with laughter. Her fingertips sighed lightly. The sharp blade patted on LV&I's neck. I'm afraid the moment you move. You're together? At this moment, how could the Dark Void Hall's guards not understand that these two parties were completely in cahoots? No, we can't let anyone take that guy from the West Courtyard away. The people above will definitely kill us. Chase. Quickly chase. No. First Master and Deputy Master are in their hands if they really hurt the two masters. If we don't chase, he will run away. The profound practitioners guarding them were thrown into chaos. At this moment, Yiqing Luo's sharp ears twitched. The air was filled with the sound of several breaths cutting through the air. Her brows frowned, suddenly raised her eyes to look at Tong Ziqing on the wall. Ziqing, be careful. At the same time, an arc shadow swept over the top of the wall. The majestic and ferocious profound chi exploded with a loud bang. Bang. Gravel flew. A figure was faintly discernible in the dust. Under the bright lights, that man stood on the wall. His long robe fluttered along with the strong wind, making a sound. Third Elder. The guard profound practitioners shouted excitedly. The person standing on top of the wall, wasn't it? The Jiang family aristocrat's helper, Third Elder Jiang? Over there. There's still Fourth Elder. Tong Ziqing at the moment when Yiqing Luo cried out in alarm. Instinctively, he had already jumped off the wall to avoid the incoming attack. However, the residual power of the boundless profound light and the fact that she was carrying a person on her shoulder caused her to stagger a little when she landed. Immediately after that, another overbearing profound light attack came right at him. Tong Ziqing's face turned pale, and she immediately retreated 2 steps. He had already retreated too. Within the Anshu Hall, there were countless profound practitioners who had rushed over upon hearing the news. Ziqing. Yiqing Luo's brows creased slightly as her half-squinted eyes refracted a piercingly cold glint. She immediately dragged LV&I and rushed to Tong Ziqing's side, protecting her behind her. There were layers upon layers of people surrounding them. Third elder Jiang and fourth elder Jiang slowly walked towards them. The crowd parted to make a path. Their momentum was extremely mighty. The two elders' vision fell onto Yiqing Luo without blinking. As though he was examining Yiqing Luo. It was as if he wanted to see through her body and into her soul. Yiqing Luo recalled what she had heard in Lu Sanzong's room. These two elders' blind guesses actually suspected that she was Feng family's Miss Feng Qing Luo. Now they probably wanted to confirm their guess. Yiqing Luo's picturesque brows slightly narrowed. Suddenly she raised her hand and blocked in front of Tong Ziqing and Long Yunzhan, raised her brows and looked at the two elders. Such a small matter, I didn't expect it to alarm the two elders. Chapter 49-94. Third elder Jiang and fourth elder Jiang's expression sunk as their malicious gazes stared coldly at Yiqing Luo. Their gazes fell onto LV&I, who was in Yiqing Luo's hands, and Lu Sanzong, who was in Dmo Xian's hands. Finally they pointed at Tong Ziqing. Put him down. Tong Ziqing grabbed Long Yunzhan's arm tightly as she pressed him firmly onto her body. Her other hand gripped her long sword tightly as her icy cold face was filled with murderous intent. Apparently, it was impossible for her to hand Long Yunzhan back to them. Elders, don't be so impatient. Yiqing Luo's eyes curved as she took light steps towards the elders. The moment she moved, the surrounding people instantly became alert. Their eyes stared intently at Yiqing Luo, as though she would bare her fangs and brandish her claws towards them the next moment. Being afraid meant that they more or less had some restraining fear towards her. Yiqing Luo tilted her head as her charming eyes beamed even more radiantly. Look, where are my men? I've taken one of your men away, and as for your men, I have two in my hands. She paused slightly as her narrow eyes started to ripple. Why don't we make a deal and exchange people? How about that? You. Third elder Jiang's expression sunk. Young lady, you dare to be so arrogant in other people's turf? Do you really think that you can leave this place safely after killing the eldest master and vice master? Why not? Try. Yiqing Luo's brows rose disapprovingly as her voice was soft as though she was just talking about the weather. Her fingertips moved. The cold glint of the chopper in her hand brushed past Elvini's neck. Ugh! Elvi&I felt a piercing pain on her neck as the cold air penetrated deep into her body. She groaned painfully. I wonder, if I kill your head in front of your dark void hall, will it make me seem very cool? Yiqing Luo's smile became even more pure and harmless. Whereas for them, when they see you elders being indifferent towards Dark Void Hall's head's death, will they be bitterly disappointed? After all, you don't even care about the head's life, not to mention their lives. The young lady's voice wasn't soft. His voice was filled with ridicule, and it spread to everyone's ears. She loosened her grip on the blade. Her charming eyes that were like boundless stars reflected the redness on Elvini's neck, making her entire person appear even more enchanting and charming. Yiqing Luo's words made the two elders' expressions turn gloomier as they snapped. Nonsense! I have two people in my hands. Yiqing Luo chuckled softly. So, which side is more important? You can choose for yourselves. While they were talking, the young girl had already walked to Tong Ziqing's side. She was clearly a delicate figure. However, it seemed to contain endless power. He stood in front of Tong Ziqing in a protective posture. It blocked the restless gazes and impulses of the surrounding people. Tong Ziqing stared blankly at the delicate back that was right in front of her. The girl's back was very straight. It seemed that as long as she was around, nothing in this world could hurt them in the slightest. This feeling, it was as if, just like how he was once protected by Yiqing Luo. Tong Ziqing's eyes started to heat up for no reason. She hugged Long Yunzhan tightly as she took a deep breath, stabilizing her restless emotions as she followed behind Yiqing Luo. Young lady. Third elder Jiang stared behind Yiqing Luo, at that pale-faced Long Yunzhan who had his eyes tightly shut. What is your relationship with them? That tone was filled with suspicion and questioning. Yiqing Luo's brows rose. I'm a person who pays particular attention to the word trust. When I'm entrusted by someone, I'll do what I'm asked to do. Like Trash 7th Missy, Overlord, please be gentle with your love. Trash 7th Missy, Overlord, please be gentle with your love. Chapter 49-95. Who asked you to do it? Third elder Jiang's brows sunk even deeper as he squinted his eyes to examine Yiqing Luo. Young lady, do you know who he is, to dare to come to the Dark Void Hall to create trouble? Yiqing Luo curled her lips indifferently. Anyway, I am someone who is being chased by the Dark Void Hall. Someone asked me to come to the Dark Void Hall to kidnap someone. If I can give you trouble, why should I not come? The young lady's tone was full of provocation and ridicule. Her evil and arrogant attitude was totally without the slightest fear and vigilance of being surrounded by countless of Dark Void Hall's guards. Third Elder Jiang, the guarding profound practitioners. What she said was so reasonable that they actually had no way to refute. Yiqing Luo raised her brows as her lips curled into a charming smile. As for who asked me to do it, Elder doesn't have to worry about it, now. You just need to tell me who do you want to choose to let live. Yiqing Luo glanced sideways at Tong Ziqing, not knowing why. Tong Ziqing actually understood Yiqing Luo's meaning. She carried Long Yunzhan and followed behind Yiqing Luo. Then she followed Yiqing Luo and passed through countless people's encirclement as she slowly walked towards Dmo Xian. No one dared to stop them along the way. The two elders also stared at them fiercely, but neither spoke nor made any moves. Until Yiqing Luo walked to Dmo Xian's side. 3 people, a child and an unconscious man, stood together. He was surrounded by 3 layers of guarding profound practitioners. Both sides were silent for a long time. Fourth Elder Jiang, who had been silent all this while, suddenly said, "Little girl, do you really think that you can leave safely by using those 2 pieces of trash?" Fourth Elder Jiang looked more calm and gloomy compared to Third Elder Jiang. The moment he opened his mouth, his tone was full of coercion. Yiqing Luo's lips curled slightly as her long and charming eyes squinted. Her smile was still that charming and lovely. However, the flowing light in his eyes revealed a bit of bewitching evilness. "At least for now, you don't dare to touch us, right?" The young lady's soft voice was languid and careless. Fourth Elder Jiang snorted softly. His sinister and ruthless gaze carried a hint of indecipherable mockery as he said, "But young lady, you don't even know that person is one of us, yet you want to take him away. Aren't you afraid of inviting a wolf into your house?" His words were full of threats and ruthlessness. His words were filled with a lofty attitude. Yiqing Luo frowned slightly. Suddenly, she seemed to understand the deeper meaning of Fourth Elder Jiang's words. Her eyes narrowed. She immediately turned around and said, "Ziqing, put him down. Wife, be careful." At the same time, her voice overlapped with a low and mellow voice. The man's slender and strong arms suddenly clasped her waist and pulled her into his broad embrace. Bang! A sword ray left countless sword marks on the ground. The entire courtyard exploded with a loud bang. "Leader," the woman's cold and panicked voice rang out. The voice was very weak and it sounded like it was seriously injured. Yiqing Luo's brows knitted even tighter as she raised her eyes and exchanged a glance with Dmo Xian. The 2 of them speedily flew towards Tong Ziqing's direction. Earlier Yiqing Luo's reminder didn't make Tong Ziqing put Long Yunzhan down. And at that moment, a blue long sword suddenly appeared in Long Yunzhan's hand as he slashed out numerous profound rays. Tong Ziqing was the closest. She was directly slashed by that sword ray, leaving several wounds. Trash 7th Young Mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th Young Mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 4996. This wasn't the end yet. While Tong Ziqing was half squatting on the ground, feeling weak and powerless, Long Yunzhan raised his long sword once again as he pressed forward. Dong! Profound rays collided. The machete in Yiqing Luo's hand clashed with the long sword. Profound waves vibrated, as though layers upon layers of ripples were spreading out in the air. Yiqing Luo's hand turned slightly numb. She lowered her head as her other hand swiftly picked up Tong Ziqing, giving up on the battle with Long Yunzhan as she leapt backwards. Under the profound rays, Yiqing Luo saw Long Yunzhan, who was standing upright. But the current him was apparently not in his normal state. Even if he waved his sword to attack, that pair of tightly shut eyes had not even opened. The current Ajahn. Was he still controlled by the people from the Palace of Darkness? Yiqing Luo's slender fingers clenched into a fist. Long Yunzhan's movement. It made Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian's original advantage disappear. Lu Sanzong and LV&I had already been carried back into their protective circle by the profound practitioners who were guarding them. On the other hand, Long Yunzhan stood there with his back straight. The long sword in his hand was glowing with a dazzling blue light. Group leader? Tong Ziqing looked at Long Yunzhan as her eyes were filled with pain. Towards the wounds on her body, she totally didn't feel any pain. Yiqing Luo pressed on Tong Ziqing's shoulder as she squinted her eyes and stared at Long Yunzhan. Are you their men or the person you want to save, is their men? Yiqing Luo's question was intentionally asked out. After all, those two elders were still suspicious of her identity. If her performance was too calm, wouldn't it arouse their suspicions? No. Tong Ziqing's eyes were scarlet red as she raised her head and shouted, "We're not their men. Group leader is from the world group, he only belongs to the world group." Her fingers clenched tightly as the green veins popped out. It's the Palace of Darkness. Group leader, which is why this happened. Ha, are you still lying to yourself? Fourth Elder Jiang gave a low mocking laugh. What the world group, it's merely a tool used by Master. He suddenly paused as though he had thought of something and laughed. Speaking of which, your group leader is Master's man, then, your the world group is actually also considered as Master's men. You. Tong Ziqing's expression turned increasingly cold as her pair of cold and beautiful eyes seemed as though it was about to burn with rage. Our the world group will forever belong to the world group. You are a bunch of dogs of the Dark Palace. Sooner or later, Qing Luo and the Overlord will consign you to eternal damnation. Ah. You're even placing your hopes on the person that you all worship like a god. Fourth Elder Jiang ridiculed. She's now the young miss of the Feng family that's high and mighty in the divine realm. Do you know the Feng family? That's the clan of the previous God Emperor, the acting God Emperor's clan, the clan of the God Emperor. Right now, in front of her high and mighty Miss Feng, how would she still have the leisure to care about you, the shame of the lower realms? Your existence is a disgrace to her. Bam! Suddenly, a deafening explosion resounded like a thunderclap. The blue sword glow swept past streaks of sword waves. Like a hurricane, it directly pressed towards Fourth Elder Jiang. It also interrupted Fourth Elder Jiang's ridicule. Fourth Elder Jiang didn't have time to react to the sudden attack. He was met with a sword wave. He abruptly retreated 2 steps as his malicious eyes stared fiercely at the direction where the sword force was pressing from. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 4997. The blue-robed dark-haired young man's sleeves fluttered in the wind. His messy long hair, which was not tied up, swayed along with the hurricane. Long Yunzhan? Fourth Elder Jiang stared at the blue-robed dark-haired young man in disbelief as he spoke in a hoarse voice. You dare to lay a hand on me? The young man's hand which was holding the sword moved slightly. The profound glow encircled his entire body. Everyone's vision was concentrated on him. The young man slowly raised his head. A chilly gaze, as though it was covered with thousands of years of frost, shot over. He opened his eyes. Group leader? Tong Ziqing also saw Long Yunzhan's opened eyes as her heart started to race. Did this mean that he had regained consciousness? But that youth, who was sealed in ice for thousands of miles, did not even look at her. He just stared straight at Fourth Elder Jiang coldly. The chill in his eyes seemed as though he wanted to tear Fourth Elder Jiang into pieces. Immediately, the young man raised his hand and the majestic profound glow exploded as the sword wave neared Fourth Elder Jiang, carrying endless murderous intent. Fourth Elder Jiang's heart tightened. Long Yunzhan, do you know what you're doing? Bam bam bam. The surrounding heaven and earth's spiritual qi, under the profound glow, started to form layers of ripples. It surged forth violently. Long Yunzhan's attack didn't stop because of Fourth Elder Jiang's words. The blue light was as fast as lightning as it broke through Fourth Elder Jiang's defense as the long sword fell. No one is allowed to slander her. An icy cold voice was spat out from the blue-robed dark-haired young man's mouth. Every single word was heard clearly. Fourth Elder Jiang's expression was as dark as charcoal. Just because he said something bad about Yiqing Luo. This lad just broke through his control and made a move on him? How loyal was this lad to Yiqing Luo? So that when he was unconscious, his body's natural reaction had already made a subconscious action to protect her. Group leader? As group leader? Regained consciousness? Hearing Long Yunzhan's words of protection, Tong Ziqing's eyes suddenly lit up as her tone was filled with agitation. Then he dragged his injured body towards Long Yunzhan. A fair hand pressed down on her shoulder, stopping her from moving. Behind him, the girl's soft voice came, "Don't go over, he's not awake." But he just... If he wasn't sober, how could he have attacked Fourth Elder Jiang? Yiqing Luo's curly long lashes drooped slightly as her heart was deeply shaken. Long Yunzhan had actually slandered her because of Fourth Elder Jiang. He broke free from 4th Elder Jiang's control. However, this was only Long Yunjian's instinct. This was not his behavior when he was sober. He had to bring Long Yunjian back. If they left Long Yunjian here, that would only make the people from the Palace of Darkness. He wanted to cause more damage to Long Yunjian. She narrowed her eyes and looked at 4th Elder Jiang. If you want to sever that elder's control over your friend, you'll have to deal with that elder first. Now, Long Yunjian making a move against 4th Elder Jiang was the best opportunity. That was why Long Yunjian attacked Tong Ziqing and them. It was all because of 4th Elder Jiang. She had just noticed it. 4th Elder Jiang seemed to be controlling something in his hands. Yiqing Luo raised the machete in her hand as she flew towards 4th Elder Jiang's direction. 4th Elder Jiang was avoiding Long Yunjian's attack. His peripheral vision took a glimpse. Another piercingly cold silvery blade was coming towards him. His expression sunk. 3rd Elder. Chapter 4998. Yiqing Luo's machete had yet to come close. From the side, a burst of overbearing profound light swept over. Profound ripples spread out, continuously returning in the air. It was as if it wanted to devour everything in its surroundings. 3rd Elder Jiang smiled sinisterly at Yiqing Luo. Young lady, you're still too inexperienced. 3rd Elder Jiang's attack was extremely terrifying and full of murderous intent. Yiqing Luo moved sideways to avoid it. She waved the silver machete in her hand, her lips curled into a cold arc. 3rd Elder Jiang, you're not my target. So, let my husband play with you. She leaped backward. Behind her was a man in a bamboo-colored brocade robe and jade belt. His face was green and immature like an ignorant playboy. He leaped to the front of the young lady. The invisible hurricane was fluttering. The man's beautiful figure stood against the wind. Just standing there. It made people feel fear. 3rd Elder Jiang had no time to retract his attack and directly went against the man in brocade robe. A yellow-haired kid who was still wet behind the ears. Even if he was talented, that's just an inexperienced brat. How dare he put on an act in front of him? 3rd Elder Jiang sneered, his palm strike rolled up a more vigorous profound chi. Ayun, be careful, don't kill him. At the same time, he heard the young lady's soft and sarcastic laughter. This was like the fuse that ignited 3rd Elder Jiang's inner anger. Yiqing Luo glanced at 3rd Elder Jiang who was rushing towards Dmo Xian. She curled her lips into a smile. Then her figure flashed and she had quickly rushed towards 4th Elder Jiang. That idiot. 4th Elder Jiang could not help but curse when he saw that 3rd Elder Jiang had actually fought with another man while protecting him. 4th Elder Jiang, the young lady's soft voice floated into his ears. Immediately after, he saw a peach-red robe flashed past his eyes. The young lady's machete had already reached his neck. 4th Elder Jiang's face darkened as he stared at Yiqing Luo with a treacherous gloominess. He couldn't detect the slightest fluctuation of profound chi from this young lady. There was no way to identify the opponent's profound grade. This situation, there was only one explanation. This girl was wearing some sort of treasure that could conceal her aura. Someone who knew how to hide his aura? There had to be some special reason. 4th Elder Jiang looked at the girl with an even more probing gaze. Swish! While 4th Elder Jiang was deep in thought, in the air, there was the sound of a sword cutting through the air. It was unknown when Long Yunjian had charged towards 4th Elder Jiang with his sword in hand. Her opened azure eyes were like stagnant water, without the slightest fluctuation or ripple. His face was expressionless, but there was only a murderous intent. Long Yunjian. 4th Elder Jiang gritted his teeth and growled Long Yunjian's name. He narrowly avoided Long Yunjian's sword wave. Then he raised his hand and was about to touch the thing in his hand. A cold light flashed. 4th Elder Jiang stared in disbelief at the direction where the cold light came from. That petite girl with black hair and peach-colored clothes actually directly faced Long Yunjian's sword wave. The blue profound light slammed heavily into the girl's body like a tidal wave. However, the girl didn't care. She directly broke through the sword wave. In a blink of an eye, she had already appeared in front of him. That biting cold shining big machete flashed past his eyelids. Ah! 4th Elder Jiang cried out miserably. His wrist was cut by the blade as blood gushed out and dyed the blade red. An item fell from his palm. Trash 7th Young Mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th Young Mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 4999. That was a human-shaped puppet. The size of a palm. It was meticulously carved from the best quality wood. The puppet had a nose and eyes, even the clothes on it were lifelike. Yiqing Luo only took one look and she could tell. This puppet was carved on. Who else could it be if it wasn't Long Yunzhan? Fourth Elder Jiang used this to control Long Yunzhan? Yiqing Luo's sleeves fluttered as she swept the puppet into her palm. You, return the thing to me. Fourth Elder Jiang's face sunk when he saw that. He couldn't care less about his bleeding hand as he struck towards Yiqing Luo, trying to get the puppet back. Bam! An extremely thick profound wave seemed to have crossed the mountains and rivers as it pressed forward. Fourth Elder Jiang had yet to get close to Yiqing Luo. He was slammed onto the ground by an invisible profound wave. As soon as Fourth Elder Jiang turned his head, he saw Third Elder Jiang lying on the ground, moaning in pain. Fourth Elder Jiang's face turned pale as he looked towards the direction where the profound wave came from. He saw that man who was originally fighting with Third Elder Jiang was now holding the seriously injured Yiqing Luo expressionlessly. That pair of pure and innocent, sapphire-like eyes. But it seemed as though it was gathering a storm. He just stood there, hugging the young lady without moving. His entire body emitted a terrifying and vast aura. Just indifferently, he swept a glance over them. That gaze was as though he was looking at a corpse. It brought along an invisible horrifying pressure. It was shocking. Third Elder Jiang and Fourth Elder Jiang's hearts suddenly trembled as they stared at Dmo Xian in disbelief. Who was this man? How could he have such a powerful ability? Bring him away. The man's deep and icy cold voice spoke out indifferently. He was obviously looking at Yiqing Luo. But Tong Ziqing knew that this sentence was meant for her. She immediately went forward and carried the motionless Long Yunzhan onto her body. Long Yunzhan wasn't very cooperative. The man directly grabbed the young lady's hand which was holding the puppet and squeezed hard. Long Yunzhan's stiff body suddenly turned soft as he closed his eyes and fell onto Tong Ziqing's shoulder. Commander. Tong Ziqing cried out worriedly. You won't die. Dmo Xian interrupted coldly. Let's go. In the surroundings, there were more than 100 profound practitioners guarding them. At this moment, no one dared to take even half a step forward. Looking at that young and harmless man. To be more precise, it would be more appropriate to describe him as a teenager. However, he only managed to touch the other party's aura. It was as if their bodies were nailed to the ground, unable to move. He could only look on helplessly as he slowly left with the black-haired girl in his arms, until the person who had barged into their headquarters completely disappeared before their eyes. After the suffocating pressure disappeared, Yiqing Tong's eyes widened. Only then did everyone feel as though their lives had been saved. Trash. A bunch of trash. Third Elder Jiang was so angry that he gnashed his teeth and roared. This roar affected the wounds on his body, and he coughed out a large mouthful of blood. Fourth Elder Jiang wore a dark expression as he allowed the guards to lift them up. The Third Elder of Jiang clan was still throwing a tantrum and cursing. Fourth Elder Jiang was having a headache from all the ruckus as he squinted at Third Elder Jiang and spoke in a cold voice. What are you shouting for? They are trash, aren't you trash as well? What do you mean? Third Elder Jiang flew into a rage when he was scolded. Fourth Elder Jiang's eyes sunk. Haven't you noticed? That young man. His ability is not something that you and I can match up to. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.